Lin Feng was calmly standing in the rain, surrounded by those people. Lin Feng was calmly standing in the rain, surrounded by those people. There were two strong cultivators of the Xian Qi layer who belonged to a dark league. These people even dared disrespect Yu Ji and the Imperial City Guards. It seemed like someone of extraordinary status was ordering them. That person wanted to kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng was trying to analyze the situation. Apart from the Yu and Yu clans, the Du Gu clan also wanted to kill him. Of course, it could also be some of Duan Tianlang's people. Who gave you the order? Said Yu Ji in a cold tone. These people were imposing and aggressive. If they were there, they would take Lin Feng. Yu Ji didn't wait for them to reply and said, I heard that the Yu clan had close connections with leagues. You must be a dark league sent by the Yu clan. What about you? Why are you here? Said Yu Ji to Du Bai. Yu Ji was wondering what Du Bai was doing there because according to the latest news, Du Bai was supposed to be practicing his cultivation. My goal is very simple, if he can grant me a duel, I will leave. Said Du Bai indifferently, which made the crowd stupefied. Du Bai had come because he wanted to see how strong Lin Feng was. He wanted a duel against Lin Feng. Yu Ji looked at Lin Feng and saw that Lin Feng was looking at Du Bai, as if he had noticed something. Lin Feng slightly nodded and said in a low voice, All right, you start. The crowd was a bit surprised. Lin Feng surprisingly agreed to Du Bai's request. Du Bai suddenly released a terrifying blade energy, sharp, brutal and ice-cold. Pure Qi was unceasingly being absorbed into his body. A bright light was glowing around Du Bai. The only arm which Du Bai had wasn't an arm anymore, it looked like a blade. His arm was his blade. Energy attack. Lin Feng was a bit surprised. What a monstrously sharp energy. Du Bai's blade abilities had already reached the energy dimensions. He could condense all his blade energy into his arm and transform it into a sharp blade. Coupled with his strength of the Xian Qi layer, his blade was terrifying. When Yu Ji sensed the sword energy, a light flashed in his eyes. Du Bai definitely deserved to be called the top disciple of the Celestial Academy. His force and qi were terrifying. Yu Ji was wondering if the situation would become dangerous for Lin Feng. A white light started shining around Lin Feng's body. Pure qi was revolving around his body. At that moment, Lin Feng hadn't broken through to the Xian Qi layer yet but could already condense pure qi. Besides, some terrifyingly sharp sword energy had also invaded the atmosphere. His powerful sword energy was extremely sharp and vast but seemed calm. The crowd had the feeling that Lin Feng, at that moment, wasn't Lin Feng anymore but had become his sword, as if he had fused with his sword. It was still raining but there were no raindrops around Du Bai and Lin Feng's bodies. The rain couldn't get near them because they were already surrounded by the pure qi which was emitting a dazzling light. Du Bai slowly raised his arm. It was like he was slowly raising a blade. At the same, Lin Feng stretched his hand and an incredible amount of qi filled the atmosphere. It transformed into a terrifying amount of pure qi. Suddenly, his hand was filled with a sword made entirely of pure qi, filled with a mixture of battle energy, deadly qi and sword qi. I'm ready. After breaking through to the Xian Qi layer, I have used my blade 18 times, 18 people died. I hope that you will be the first to survive. Said Du Bai arrogantly. But Lin Feng ignored him. The atmosphere was dark and rainy. Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes and used his consciousness to sense the surrounding area. At the same time, in Lin Feng's mind appeared a sword. It was a black sword. It was the fatal sword of a death god. Each time Lin Feng saw that sword, his heart started pounding. It was filled with an endless quantity of pure battle qi and pure deadly qi which could slowly be absorbed into his sword. The stronger Lin Feng became, the more he could control the black sword and the more terrifying his sword made of pure qi became. Ha! When Dubai saw that Lin Feng was closing his eyes, releasing an even more powerful qi, but that incredible battle energy was terrifying. It seemed like it would never stop growing stronger and more powerful as it burned through the atmosphere. Dubai was curious to see the final stage of that sword. How powerful could Lin Feng's sword get? But at the same time, he had the feeling that the power of that sword wouldn't stop increasing and would always become more powerful. Lacerate! Shouted Dubai. He didn't continue to wait. His arm turned into a powerful blade which illuminated the atmosphere. In the air, a gigantic blade illusion appeared. Immediately after, Dubai attacked. That gigantic blade descended from the sky and seemed like it could lacerate the atmosphere. The pure qi that it contained was monstrously powerful. Lin Feng suddenly started to move. His sword made of pure qi rose into the air and his sword energy turned into an illusionary sword which started unceasingly attacking the gigantic blade. Metallic sounds were uninterruptedly spreading through the atmosphere. These sounds were loud and distinct as if they were real. My sword can annihilate everything. Lin Feng's body started to absorb an incredible amount of battle energy. His body slowly rose into the air but his move didn't look flashy at all. Actually, the energy was just moving towards that blade. The sword was fighting against the gigantic blade. At that moment, people raised their head and saw that gigantic blade as well as the sword collide with each other. A monstrously oppressive qi flooded the area. It was very difficult to imagine the gigantic blade and the sword doing battle. There weren't any terrifying explosions, there wasn't any flashing lights. There was only energy fighting against energy, each unable to defeat the other. How terrifying! These people are really geniuses, thought people in the crowd. Dubai's blade skills were obvious but Lin Feng, with his strength of the Ling Qi layer, was able to resist Dubai's attacks. Lin Feng was slightly being pushed back. He was absorbing battle energy which kept burning around him. The crowd was gasping with astonishment. At that moment, lights flashed and Dubai's blade disappeared. At the same time, Lin Feng's sword made of pure qi also disappeared. These two people had stopped fighting at the same time. You can compete with me to a certain extent. Unfortunately, I have to fight against Qiong Bai Luo tomorrow. Let's stop for today. I hope that you will still be alive come tomorrow. When Dubai finished talking, he turned around and left through the curtain of rain. Dubai's lonely and solitary silhouette looked as lonely and solitary as his single arm, his heart was filled with killing intent. Just as he had said, if Lin Feng accepted to have a duel with him, he would leave. On the day after, he would fight against Qiong Bai Luo and he could not refuse. I can only compete with you to a certain extent, that's what you think? Said Lin Feng while smiling coldly and opening his eyes. Immediately after, he closed his eyes again. His sword made of pure qi appeared in the sky and battle energy started burning around his body again. Huh? People in the crowd frowned. What did Lin Feng want to do? Die. At that moment, Lin Feng said only one word, which sounded ice-cold. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered. He didn't even need his eyes to see, everything around him was appearing clearly and distinctly in his mind. The sword descended from the sky. Immediately after, a deadly light illuminated the area. Two silhouettes were struck down by that sword without even having the time to give a horrible shriek. Lin Feng was extremely ruthless. He surprisingly hadn't said much the whole time, but he immediately killed his opponents. Two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer who were hidden in the shadows were instantly killed. The people of the Dark League had come to take Lin Feng, but it wasn't to invite Lin Feng for dinner. Instead, they wanted to kill him. Therefore, as always when somebody threatened Lin Feng's life, he killed them without restraint. Kill or be killed was Lin Feng's philosophy. In a cruel world, such as the cultivation world, when someone wanted to kill him, he would not be merciful and benevolent, his enemies would eventually kill him when they had the chance. If he was aggressive and ruthless when killing the people who wanted to kill him, he would live much longer. Why would he choose the first option? If someone wanted to kill him, he would just kill them first. It was an easy principle and Lin Feng was determined to stick to it. The other people's facial expressions drastically changed. Before arriving, they hadn't thought that Lin Feng's power was so terrifying. Everyone there would die if attacked by Lin Feng's sword. Lin Feng was like a death god. "Try if you dare," said another cultivator of the Xian Qi layer in the crowd, whose facial expression drastically changed. An endless amount of pure qi started spinning around his arm. That arm full of pure qi was bombarding the atmosphere towards Lin Feng, but Lin Feng's sword pierced straight through the pure qi and into his opponent's heart. Back in Celestial River, Lin Feng was able to kill cultivators of the Xian Qi layer. Since then, a good deal of time had passed and Lin Feng had reached the peak of the Ling Qi layer. Coupled with his terrifying sword made from pure qi, how could Lin Feng be scared of cultivators at the first Xian Qi layer? Even if Lin Feng didn't use his purple spirit, he could still defeat a cultivator of the first Xian Qi layer. Every time his sword descended from the sky, it could instantly end several lives. It was pouring with rain, with blood dyeing the water red. It was pouring with rain, with blood dyeing the water red. Lin Feng's sword was unceasingly moving. It was dazzling and uninterruptedly killing the people who had come for him, after which they collapsed into a river of blood. However, in the distance, some ferocious-looking men wearing grey clothes were unceasingly rushing towards Lin Feng. They were fearless and it seemed like they didn't care about offering their lives to Lin Feng's sword. When they saw the countless corpses on the ground, they looked unaffected. The people of the Dark League had died, the fact that such people had been killed was terrifying. Even if a cultivator was stronger than them, a little slip of attention and some carelessness could give the Dark League a good opportunity to attack by surprise and kill him. Lin Feng looked expressionless and emotionless. It was as if he was alone with his sword. His sword was dazzling and welcomed death, it was unceasingly slaughtering people. When Lin Feng was in fusion with the earth, it was impossible for him to be careless or get distracted. He could clearly and distinctly perceive every potentially fatal attack which was coming towards him as if it was in slow motion. Lin Feng's mind was like a supercomputer as he controlled his sword, he looked extremely mysterious. What scared Lin Feng was the occasional strong cultivators of the Xian Qi layer who were carrying out surprise attacks on Lin Feng. They were not getting close to him, they were just using the Dark League's human wave tactics to compete with Lin Feng, it was a diabolic plan. Not so far in the distance, Yu Ji was watching the dead Dark League people who Lin Feng had killed. Yu Ji looked absolutely unaffected but his heart was beating a bit faster than usual. According to the second prince, Lin Feng was extremely strong. Besides, the second prince had also said that he didn't know what would happen if Lin Feng used all his strength, but one thing was sure, defeating people of the first Xian Qi layer wasn't a problem at all for Lin Feng. Therefore, Yu Ji wasn't worried about Lin Feng. He had only come because he wanted to see how strong Lin Feng really was. At the same time, he could also see how Lin Feng killed his opponents. Besides, Lin Feng and his attackers were diametrically opposed in terms of power and influence. They were from completely different backgrounds. Roar! A purple light suddenly invaded the atmosphere. The Dark League cultivators were not all strong cultivators at the peak of the Ling Qi layer, there were also many people in the lower Ling Qi layers. From the 1st to the 9th Ling Qi layer, every level was present amongst the attackers. They were unceasingly attacking Lin Feng and unceasingly being slaughtered. The purple light was soaring through the air. In an instant, many people disappeared into the purple light and were melted into nothingness. They all vanished without leaving a trace. A strong cultivator of the Xian Qi layer narrowed his eyes. Lin Feng was stronger than they had expected. Fortunately, they had prepared a perfect plan, Lin Feng was definitely going to die. In the vast area surrounding Lin Feng, the cultivators who were near him had all been swallowed by the purple light, but enemies continued to charge at him from every direction. It seemed like they wanted Lin Feng to run out of qi in a prolonged battle. Die! Shouted a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer in a deep voice. Immediately, the whole crowd threw themselves at Lin Feng and attacked him. A rumbling noise started to fill the atmosphere. An endless ocean of attacks was moving from the distance towards Lin Feng. The purple lake was still surrounding Lin Feng. Lin Feng took a huge step forwards, his silhouette flickered, and in a flash, two silhouettes were consumed by the purple lights surrounding him. Another group of people didn't wait for Lin Feng to take the initiative and attack them, they were rushing towards him. They were rushing towards Lin Feng as if they didn't care about dying. At the same time, a few silhouettes jumped into the air and unleashed a gigantic silver net. The threads of that net were extremely solid and extremely sharp, just like a multitude of sharp razors. If someone got captured in that net, their body would end up tragically torn apart. Rise! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. The purple lake turned into a storm of purple snakes which blocked the net. At the same time, many snake silhouettes flickered and moved towards the people who were holding the net. On the ground, there were many other people attacking Lin Feng. At the same time, the cultivator of the Xian Qi layer attacked as well. A sickle illusion appeared behind his back while pure qi was fluctuating in the atmosphere. His body transformed into an illusion and an incredible quantity of deadly sharp qi emerged. Moonlight hook! Shouted the Xian Qi layer cultivator while swiping his hand towards Lin Feng. In a flash, what seemed like countless crescent moons appeared in his hand and started moving towards Lin Feng as they sliced through the atmosphere. Each of the crescent moons contained a terrifying qi. If they came into contact with someone, they would easily slice that person's body in half. PSSSCH, the sickle edges came into contact with the bodies of members of the Dark League between the cultivator and Lin Feng. These crescent moons passed by two people, blood filled the air and they let out horrible shrieks. They had just been killed. These subtle yet terrifying sounds were piercing into people's eardrums. A blade made of pure qi. Besides, it's a perfect match for his spirit. He's extremely strong. Thought Lin Feng while shivering. The terrifying purple spirit wouldn't be able to block these sharp crescent moon attacks. Pierce! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. His sword emitted a dazzling light. The sword in Lin Feng's hand seemed like it could pierce anything. PSSSCH, many people in front of Lin Feng were being sliced by the crescent moon sickles, but Lin Feng didn't pay attention to that. At that moment, he was releasing an incredible quantity of deadly energy and it seemed like his body had gone rigid. A poisonous snake was right behind him, it was moving towards him with the clear intention to kill. They are so good at hiding, they are really skilled assassins. Lin Feng could sense all these things distinctly. He could also feel that something sharp, like a dagger, was getting nearer and nearer to his back. The cultivator at the Xian Qi layer behind him just required a few seconds and he would be able to pierce Lin Feng's heart. Shadow! Said Lin Feng silently to himself. His body transformed into a shadow and vanished from sight. He then started to move through the darkness. Come back! Furiously shouted the Xian Qi layer cultivator, who was in front of him as he started running. The light of his blade was still invading the atmosphere. He wanted Lin Feng to come back and continue fighting. At the same time, the dagger behind Lin Feng's back was also getting nearer. Even though Lin Feng was using his shadow skills, he was unable to avoid their fatal attacks. In such circumstances, he couldn't run away. Running away would also lead to his death. Roar! A terrifying roar invaded the atmosphere. From Lin Feng's back, purple snakes were moving around in a frenzy. They continued to rush through the air. At the same time, Lin Feng was still rushing forwards. Even in front of him, the atmosphere was filled with countless crescent moon blades. Sir! Sir! His clothes were ripped apart. Under the terrifying crescent moon blades, blood started pouring from Lin Feng's body. It was so shocking. But at the same time, Lin Feng didn't have time to pay attention to his injuries. His body transformed into an incredibly sharp sword and rushed towards the cultivator of the Xian Qi layer who was in front of him. He moved extremely quick like a shadow. His body transformed into a sword. "Die!" said Lin Feng with a terrifying shout. The cultivator of the Xian Qi layer suddenly started gasping with astonishment. Immediately after, Lin Feng's body was about to crash into him. Lin Feng launched his body towards the cultivator of the Xian Qi layer and surprisingly Lin Feng's body pierced straight through him. That cultivator was realizing that both his eyes were moving farther away from each other. His body was also gradually separating itself in two parts. Lin Feng had cut his body into two. "Ah!" A terrifying shout emerged in the air. Blood burst out and immediately after, the body split into two pieces and collapsed. The crowd was astonished. The cultivator at the Xian Qi layer who was behind Lin Feng suddenly stopped and looked on in shock. He looked at the body that had been cut into two and his heart started pounding. Lin Feng had cut that body into two, not using a limb, but by using his whole body as a sword. Lin Feng, a moment before, wasn't a human. Instead, he became a sword, an extremely cruel sword. "Sword fusion," whispered the cultivator. His heart was violently shaking. A cultivator at the Ling Qi layer was in a frenzy of slaughter, constantly attacking and defending himself, and he was killing so many people, it had become a bloodbath, the ground was littered with corpses. Besides, he had used his entire body to cut another cultivator's body in two, and that cultivator was at the Xian Qi layer. That move had been way too amazing and shocking. The other person could hardly believe it. He only saw Lin Feng who slowly turned around and whose body was covered with deep wounds. Blood was unceasingly flowing from his body but it seemed like Lin Feng didn't even realize how severe his injuries were. Lin Feng's two piercingly cold eyes were staring at the other Xian Qi layer cultivator. His heart was brutally shaking. It was the first time that he had ever felt terror when faced with a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer. "Who sent you to kill me?" asked Lin Feng with an ice-cold tone. He was oppressing his interlocutor. "Who sent you to kill me?" asked Lin Feng with an ice-cold tone. He was oppressing his interlocutor. It was such a precise and accurate plan. So many cultivators of the Ling Qi layer had come to kill Lin Feng. One cultivator of the Xian Qi layer had attacked him directly while another one, an assassin, was trying to kill Lin Feng from the back. With such a precise attack, it could have been fatal. Besides, it clearly proved that they wanted to kill Lin Feng. However, it wasn't easy to capture or kill Lin Feng. That group of strong cultivators didn't want Lin Feng alive. On that day, he definitely had to die. Fortunately, Lin Feng had more than one card up his sleeve. Even though that group of people was extremely strong, it was the same result, they hadn't been able to kill Lin Feng. The ones who thought of that plot probably would have never thought that things would happen the way they did. After all the monstrous planning and powerful traps, Lin Feng, against all expectations, was still alive. He was severely injured because of all the crescent moon sickles. The blades had injured him, none of them were illusions and all contained incredible attack power. The attack had sliced through Lin Feng's flesh and muscles. If he hadn't used his spirit to slow the attack and if he didn't have a quick reaction, the injury would have been even more serious. At that moment, he didn't know if he could still fight. That cultivator of the Xian Qi layer was narrowing his eyes, which were twinkling, as if he was thinking about something. "Die!" When Lin Feng saw his interlocutor's eyes, a monstrous amount of deadly qi rose into the air. A distinct sword light appeared and he immediately rushed forward. At that moment, he had become a sword which could annihilate anything in its path. "It seems like my sword skills have become much more powerful." thought Lin Feng. Even though he had already reached the sword fusion dimension, Lin Feng was still able to improve his visualizations. He could also try to understand his celestial book in greater detail. Lin Feng's cultivation level was much too weak for him to understand the sword that was in suspension. He still had much to learn. What it meant was that he could explore sword force, energy attacks, sword fusion, and swords in general to gain a deeper understanding, which would enable him to become stronger. He still didn't have a very high cultivation level, therefore, he still had to put a great deal of work into his understanding. He could use this to increase the power of his sword energy and attacks. After having fought with so many opponents in the battle from a moment before, Lin Feng had the impression that his sword fusion had become more powerful, as if he had broken through to another layer in his sword dimension. The assassin at the Xian Qi layer could sense Lin Feng's terrifying sword energy. His heart was shaking. At the moment when Lin Feng had killed his partner at the Xian Qi layer, his heart had already lost hope. Deep in his heart, he had the feeling that he wasn't as strong as Lin Feng. His vitality, ardor and battle energy had weakened a lot. Even if Lin Feng's strength was about the same as his, defeat was already in sight. Yu clan or Du Gu clan. Lin Feng took a step forwards while releasing more of his sword energy which whistled as it pierced through the air. If I told you, would you let me go? Asked that cultivator of the Xian Qi layer who couldn't stand the pressure any longer. He had surprisingly voiced his thoughts. It was clear that he thought that Lin Feng was stronger than him, so he surprisingly asked if Lin Feng would let him go. On the corner of Lin Feng's mouth appeared a mocking smile. He said, sounding cold and detached, "A moment ago, you tried to kill me. For that, I will require an arm, then, after you tell me you can leave with your life." While he was talking, his sword energy didn't disperse. It was still as piercingly cold as before as it pressed against the cultivator. That cultivator's heartbeat slightly accelerated. He needed to pay the price of an arm. "You only have 3 seconds to make up your mind," said Lin Feng, still sounding cold and detached. 1. 2. Lin Feng counted up to 2 and took a step forward, as if he was about to attack. "I will tell you," yelled that person who couldn't bear the terrifying pressure. Immediately after, he gave a horrible shriek. The sound of cracking bones spread in the air while he forcefully crushed all the bones in his arm into dust. His arm started hanging loosely. He had destroyed the use of that arm. Sometimes, the stronger a cultivator was, the more he was afraid of death. Even if they couldn't advance their cultivation anymore, they could at least enjoy the pleasures of a long life. The other people from the Dark League are sent by a few high-ranking officials. I don't know who sent them though. This time, I just came to help. My task was to kill you. If I knew that they couldn't defeat you, I wouldn't have come, said the man very reluctantly. While gnashing his teeth, he added, "The person who hired me belongs to the Yu clan, he's the 5th master, and he ordered your death." "Who's the 5th master?" asked Lin Feng. "Yu Tianxing," replied Lin Feng's interlocutor, and immediately after added, "I answered to all of your questions. Now, can I leave?" "Get lost," said Lin Feng. The cultivator was happy. He quickly turned around and his silhouette flickered into the distance. But at that moment, a deadly energy suddenly emerged and made his heart vibrate. He abruptly turned around and wanted to move his right hand, but at that moment, he realized that he had crushed his right arm and couldn't use it. He could no longer absorb pure qi. CRR. A silver spear penetrated into and pierced through his chest. Suddenly, someone, who looked extremely calm and cold, appeared. It was the officer of the Imperial City Guards, Yu Ji. He had just killed him. "Are you also an assassin from the Celestial Academy?" asked that person while staring at Yu Ji. Blood was flowing from his body. "People who come from the Celestial Academy obey His Highness' orders, but you, instead, obey the orders of the Yu clan. Why would we let you off?" That voice pierced through his ears, and immediately after, the silver long spear moved and destroyed his internal organs. The internal organs of the cultivator of the Xian Qi layer were crushed. He died a miserable death. Besides, Yu Ji still looked calm. He then calmly pulled his spear out from the corpse. He turned around and immediately looked at Lin Feng. If the Qi Xie Marquis cannot kill his enemies, I am willing to do it for you, said Yu Ji calmly, but his eyes looked like that of a venomous snake. That venomous side rarely appeared, but Lin Feng had seen him twice. He had also only seen the spear twice. The first time he had seen that spear was when he killed Meng Han. The second time was a moment ago when he had killed the cultivator of the Xian Qi layer. Thank you, said Lin Feng indifferently. Immediately after, he turned around and started walking away, slowly because of his exhaustion. Cough cough. Coughing sounds filled the air. Blood dripped from Lin Feng's wounds and his blood mixed with the rainwater. When Yu Ji saw Lin Feng walk slowly because of exhaustion, a light flashed in his eyes. He was still wondering if, a moment before, Lin Feng had purposely given everything to scare away his last opponent. At that moment, Lin Feng wasn't capable of battling against a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer. However, an assassin of the Xian Qi layer was just so scared of Lin Feng that he destroyed the use of his own arm. In the end, he ended up as a corpse on the ground. Someone whose greatest fear was sent to his next life. At that moment, in the lovesick forest, some young people were calmly sitting under the pavilion on the lake. Once in a while, they were drinking some lovesick alcohol. Now is the right time, I think, said Yun Tianxing while throwing a rock into the water, which created small waves which moved in all four directions. Don't worry, with all the troops that you sent, Lin Feng will definitely die, said Yu Tianxing with a detached attitude. He was the one who had had the idea to assassinate Lin Feng, and Yu Tianxing was the one to create the plan. At the same time, they had used their influence to recruit some people from the Dark Leagues to kill Lin Feng for them. After Lin Feng had met Lu Zonglan, and because Meng Qin wasn't by Lin Feng's side, they had decided it was the right time to assassinate Lin Feng. You're right, Lin Feng is already dead, said Yu Tianxing while nodding. He sounded like he was convincing himself of Lin Feng's death from the trap. At that moment, in the distance, they heard some steps approaching which made Yu Tianxing's heartbeat accelerate. He turned around and saw someone moving towards them at full speed. Is Lin Feng already dead? Asked Yu Tianxing while standing up. That person raised their head, looked at Yu Tianxing, who looked so impatient, and the person's facial expression rigidified itself. They were afraid to speak out. Huh. When Yu Tianxing saw his interlocutor's silence, he had an ominous prediction and shouted, I asked you a question. Master Yu, Lin Feng hasn't died yet. He escaped alive, but he was severely injured, said that person, trembling with fear which stupefied Yu Tianxing, who said, he's only injured. How come he's not dead? What are you guys doing, damn? Surprisingly, not one of you bothered to chase and kill him. Everybody is dead, they were all slaughtered, said that person in a low voice while lowering their head. Yu Tianxing's heart started pounding. They had died. And Lin Feng was only injured. He had just assumed that Lin Feng had only managed to escape while injured, but then a terrifying feeling invaded his heart. Lin Feng wasn't dead. Considering Lin Feng's temperament, if Lin Feng learnt that the one who had sent people to kill him was Yu Tianxing, he would never let him off. From that moment on, he had to be extremely careful. Lin Feng was sitting cross-legged in a cultivation room of the central tower. Pure qi was unceasingly filling the atmosphere and penetrating into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng was sitting cross-legged in a cultivation room of the central tower. Pure qi was unceasingly filling the atmosphere and penetrating into Lin Feng's body. Cultivators could recover from injuries much faster with the help of qi. Besides, the higher their cultivation level was, the less time they required to recover. After having broken through to a higher cultivation layer, even if a cultivator had their arm cut off, they could recover it with enough time. There were even some rumors which said that even if the emperor wanted to die, unless every part of him was completely destroyed, he would come back to life. Lin Feng was severely injured, but since he had penetrated into the earth dimension, things had changed. His muscles were stronger and he could recover much faster. In just one day, the qi of heaven and earth could heal his wounds. He was already healed from his wounds. Besides, he had consumed a lot of his qi during the battle. After having been healed by the pure qi, his body continued to absorb insane quantities of refined pure qi which penetrated directly into his body through his blood vessels. At that moment, Lin Feng's body was enveloped, from head to toe, by a bright and dazzling white light. That dazzling white light was the qi which Lin Feng condensed into pure qi. Lin Feng had already finished the process of transforming his qi into pure qi which he could control. Once all the qi inside his body was completely transformed into pure qi, he would be able to learn a skill which he could use once he broke through the Ling qi layer and entered the Xian qi layer. The moment when Lin Feng would break through to the Xian qi layer was growing closer. Besides, in the room above Lin Feng's room, the qi of heaven and earth was pouring into the atmosphere. The door of the room was slowly opening itself and a silhouette was emerging. That person was precisely Qiong Bai Luo. Immediately after, he jumped up in the air and used pure qi to propel his body forward. Qiong Bai Luo then glanced at the crowd with an arrogant expression in his eyes. At that moment, in the square, a crowd had already gathered. Today was precisely the day of his challenge to Dubai. Qiong Bai Luo is so confident. How come he is so certain that he is going to win? People raised their heads and looked at the silhouette moving through the sky. The expression in Qiong Bai Luo's eyes was sharp, as if he was certain that he was going to become the top-ranked disciple of the Celestial Academy. "Dubai, where are you?" said Qiong Bai Luo. His voice was unceasingly rolling through the atmosphere in all directions. It resonated to every single corner of the academy so that everybody could hear it. After a short moment, the atmosphere became silent again. In the distance, a terrifying blade energy burst forth. In the sky, there was a bright and gigantic blade illusion that was slicing through the sky. Immediately after, the crowd noticed that in the middle of that blade illusion, there was a single silhouette. It was Dubai. His facial expression looked extremely sharp, like a blade. Dubai soared through the air and eventually arrived at the public square where everybody had gathered. That gigantic blade illusion surrounded him as he moved. He had fused with his blade and was one with the gigantic blade. The crowd who was on the ground could feel the terrifying blade energy on their skin. It was extremely brutal. Seems like the battle is going to be extraordinary. Everybody in the crowd looked impatient to watch the battle. Qiong Bai Luo was arrogant and confident in his abilities. Dubai was swift, fierce, and extremely aggressive. That battle was definitely going to be a battle to the death. In the frame of that unavoidable confrontation, people wanted to see who was going to become the first-ranked disciple of the academy. Who would end up in the top position, Qiong Bai Luo or Dubai? "Dubai, after this, you will not be the best disciple of the academy anymore," said Qiong Bai Luo while looking at Dubai's blade. As before, he was full of confidence. "Whether this will happen or not doesn't depend on your big mouth. Today, if you defeat me, you will become the first in the ranking. Of course, I wouldn't get ahead of yourself," said Dubai in an extremely aggressive tone. He had been the first ranked in the academy for such a long time. Losing the top position would be a humiliation. "Not only will I defeat you today, but I will also defeat Wen Ao Shui, Du Gu Shang and Lin Feng. I will fight against all of them and I let everyone know who the best student of the academy is. No need to waste time. Last time, Du Gu Shang fought against Lin Feng and couldn't withstand a single blow. Du Gu Shang cannot compete with us. Wen Ao Shui isn't weak, but he is still at the 9th Ling Qi layer. He has not grown stronger and is still weaker than us. The only one who represents a real threat for us is Lin Feng, but yesterday I went out to have a battle against him. He was the first person to resist my blade. He is not far from us in strength, but he can only resist a single strike, that's all. If you can defeat me, you don't need to defeat anyone else in the academy," said Dubai arrogantly and egocentrically. In his eyes, amongst the three others, none of them could hold a torch to the two on stage. Even though Lin Feng was quite skilled, with the strength Budi saw, Lin Feng still couldn't compete with them. When the crowd heard Dubai, they were stupefied. Indeed, before Lin Feng left for Yangzhou City, he had defeated Du Gushang in one move. Even though much time had passed, Du Gushang still couldn't compete with Lin Feng. Besides, amongst these people, Lin Feng was the only person who Dubai held in esteem. However, he still thought that Lin Feng could only resist a single blade attack. Only one blade, the second would kill him. If Qiong Bai Luo defeated Dubai, he could defeat everybody else. He didn't need to fight anymore. He could immediately become the top disciple of the Celestial Academy and enjoy all of the glory it entitled. "It's better this way, I won't need to waste my time," said Qiong Bai Luo in an ice-cold way and then added, "Dubai, let's fight. Fight! Fight! Fight!" shouted Dubai furiously, as if he had turned into a madman. His blade twinkled in the air and an endless amount of blade energy emerged. A gigantic blade spirit appeared behind Dubai, who was in fusion with his blade. Blade force and chi invaded and bombarded the atmosphere, moving straight towards Qiong Bai Luo. However, Qiong Bai Luo wasn't moving at all. What a terrifying strength! Thought people in the crowd as their hearts started shaking. It wasn't surprising that Dubai had been the top-ranked disciple of the academy for such a long time. His reputation was well-deserved. "Even if you use stronger blade energy, so what?" said Qiong Bai Luo while smiling coldly. His blue void spirit appeared as random raindrops. These raindrops slowly started to envelop Qiong Bai Luo's entire body. It was a cloudless and sunny day, but not around Qiong Bai Luo's body. It seemed like rain was pouring around him, but it did not reach the ground. The blade energy was approaching the raindrops, but when they collided the blade energy disappeared. All the raindrops suddenly looked like a rippling lake. How can he do that? Qiong Bai Luo's spirit is so complex. The people watching felt their hearts slightly twitch for a second. Qiong Bai Luo hadn't moved, the blade energy penetrated into the raindrops and disappeared. "Just a coincidence, that's all," said Dubai while smiling coldly. In the air, he slowly raised his arm and condensed all his blade energy and his blade spirit's power into his arm. At that moment, Dubai transformed into a gigantic blade, a gigantic deadly blade. He started walking swiftly through the air, whistling noises were spreading through the atmosphere. Dubai was just like a blade that was flying towards Qiong Bai Luo. At the same time, his arm slashed down with the illusion of a gigantic blade, lacerating the atmosphere. "Blue void raindrops," said Qiong Bai Luo quickly. Raindrops suddenly started emerging from his spirit and invaded the atmosphere as if it had started to rain. The gigantic blade crashed against the rain. The blade felt a surge of resistant force inside the rain, the blade could only slowly move forwards. That endless blue void rain seemed to provide amazing protection. At the same time, Qiong Bai Luo started running forwards and shouted coldly, "Blue void underworld." In a flash, a blue void with raindrops fell down from the sky and immediately appeared in the air above Dubai and then shrouded his body in rain. Dubai's body could be seen surrounded by raindrops. He looked astonished. Dubai transformed into a blade which whistled through the air, however, when it collided with the curtain of rain, his body started shaking violently. He was prisoner inside the blue void raindrops as if it was a cage. "Rain of the underworld. Die!" shouted Qiong Bai Luo coldly. When he said the word "die," the raindrops suddenly started to change. These raindrops weren't rain anymore, they had turned into razor-sharp blades. "Cut! shouted Du Bai furiously. His body started shining with an infinite and dazzling light. A bright blade light filled the atmosphere around him, so people couldn't see clearly what was happening inside. But in a flash, Du Bai's silhouette appeared again. He was still standing in the sky, but blood was unceasingly flowing from wounds all over his body. He was covered with blood from head to toe. How terrifying! People in the crowd were shaking. That blue void spirit was extremely powerful. Du Bai couldn't compete with it. Xiong Bai Luo was the best disciple of the Celestial Academy. I lost, said Du Bai while looking at Xiong Bai Luo, who looked extremely proud and arrogant. Du Bai's voice was low. He had been defeated and it had been a crushing defeat. I lost, said Du Bai while looking at Xiong Bai Luo, who looked extremely proud and arrogant. Du Bai's voice was low. He had been defeated and it had been a crushing defeat. Xiong Bai Luo's blue void underworld and blue void spirit were monstrously strong. He could firmly seal parts of the atmosphere. His blue void raindrops could form into a cage of raindrops. Besides, once there was a prisoner inside that cage, it could transform the raindrops into razor-shaped blades that attacked the prisoner. If Du Bai had been a little bit weaker, he would have died. From now on, the best disciple of the Celestial Academy is you, Xiong Bai Luo, said Du Bai sorrowfully. He had always been first in the ranking of the Celestial Academy. Besides, he was also one of the first students to break through the Ling Qi layer and enter the Xian Qi layer. He used to think that if he couldn't do something, other people would be even less capable. However, Xiong Bai Luo had also always been a genius and had always been a close second. Xiong Bai Luo had always been introverted, discreetly practicing cultivation, but after he had broken through to the Xian Qi layer, he had become a completely different person. He had become extremely arrogant, and right after breaking through to the Xian Qi layer, he had immediately challenged Du Bai to a battle. Du Bai had just thought that Xiong Bai Luo had grown arrogant with success, but reality had been different from expectation. Xiong Bai Luo had defeated Du Bai very easily. He hadn't even taken the battle seriously. People had the same thoughts as Du Bai. Du Bai couldn't compete with Xiong Bai Luo. If Xiong Bai Luo wasn't the best student of the academy, who else could it be? Wen Ao Shui, Du Gu Shang, Lin Feng, where are they? Said Xiong Bai Luo coldly and arrogantly while glancing at the crowd on the ground. If these people had come, Xiong Bai Luo wouldn't have minded fighting against them. That was a way for him to show people how strong he was. However, nobody replied. Du Gu Shang couldn't even withstand one of Lin Feng's attacks. How could he have the courage to come and fight? Wen Ao Shui just hadn't bothered to go. Concerning Lin Feng, he was still in his cultivation room. They're just a bunch of nobodies. As expected, apart from Du Bai, the others cannot even compete with me anymore. They are all tiny little insects, they are worthless. When Xiong Bai Luo finished insulting the other strong disciples, he started walking away. After a short moment, his silhouette disappeared from the crowd's field of vision. While looking at the vanishing silhouette, people's eyes were twinkling. The imperial city was really lively and animated. Even though Xiong Bai Luo had just broken through to the Xian Qi layer, with his amazingly strong spirit, he could definitely rival the 8 high officials. Finally, there was someone who was as monstrous as the 8 high officials in the Celestial Academy. While looking at the disappearing silhouette, Du Bai's eyes were filled with disappointment. They were both of the Xian Qi layer. Besides, he had broken through to the Xian Qi layer before Xiong Bai Luo, but there was still a big gap between them. Xiong Bai Luo was monstrously strong. Xiong Bai Luo's spirit gave him a huge advantage in battle, it was clear with only a glance. Du Bai's blade spirit was also extremely strong, but Xiong Bai Luo's spirit had confined him so easily that he hadn't even had the opportunity to bring his blade spirit into play. At that moment, a rumbling noise emerged in the atmosphere and broke the silence. People could only see a room of the cultivation tower open itself. Immediately after, a handsome young man appeared. He was wearing a long white chongpao, his hair was fluttering in the wind. The expression in his eyes looked profound, deep and proud. Lin Feng. The crowd was astonished. Lin Feng had come out of the cultivation room. Precisely at the moment that Xiong Bai Luo left. Did he do that on purpose? Thought the crowd. Xiong Bai Luo had challenged Lin Feng and the others. It was unlikely that Lin Feng hadn't heard the news, but he didn't appear. Could it be that he had waited for Xiong Bai Luo to leave and then came out, as if he wanted to avoid Xiong Bai Luo? But the crowd could understand why Lin Feng would want to avoid Xiong Bai Luo. Lin Feng only had the strength of the Ling Qi layer. Fighting against a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer would have been the same as committing suicide. Xiong Bai Luo was monstrously strong, and that was a fact. Lin Feng could already put pressure on Du Bai, which was already impressive. When Lin Feng came out of his cultivation room, he had also noticed the crowd who was looking at him. He couldn't help but be surprised. However, he ignored the crowd and started leaving. Wait, wait. At that moment, a voice emerged in the atmosphere which made Lin Feng stop. What do you think, are blade and sword spirits strong or not? Asked Du Bai. His spirit was a blade spirit and Lin Feng was a sword cultivator. To a certain extent, they belonged to the same category of cultivator. Of course, that was just Du Bai's opinion. Even though Lin Feng practiced sword skills, he didn't have a sword spirit. Of course. Replied Lin Feng without even turning his head. Well then, why did Xiong Bai Luo defeat me so easily? I didn't even have the slightest chance. Asked Du Bai towards Lin Feng, yet it sounded like he was questioning himself. His faith in blades had been shaken. Strength, no matter the result of a battle, is not only connected to the spirit. If Xiong Bai Luo defeated you, it's not only because of your spirit. Determination and one's skill level is also important to win a battle. Said Lin Feng indifferently. The spirit was only one of the things that could influence the flow of a battle. It wasn't an absolute indicator of who would win a battle. For example, a cultivator of the first Ling Qi layer would never be able to defeat a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer. Even when it came to cultivators of the same level, an extremely strong determination, willpower, courage, focus and level of skill were all factors which could determine the outcome of a battle. Besides, these factors didn't have anything to do with the spirit. That was Lin Feng's opinion, which corresponded to his personality. Even though he only had the strength of the Ling Qi layer, he would still use his sword to fight a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer such as Du Bai. Did it mean that Lin Feng's sword spirit was stronger than Du Bai's blade spirit? Of course not. He had no sword spirit. What you mean is that I, as a person, cannot rival Xiong Bai Luo, and it has nothing to do with our spirits. Du Bai's voice sounded a bit cold and a blade energy started floating around Lin Feng's body. He was asking Lin Feng only because he was doubting himself and his spirit. Besides, he had been defeated by Xiong Bai Luo, but he couldn't tolerate such words coming from Lin Feng's mouth. You asked me and I gave you my answer. I am just telling you from what I have experienced. Said Lin Feng when he noticed Du Bai's anger. Lin Feng didn't refute Du Bai's words and instead his voice started to grow colder. Du Bai had been defeated by Xiong Bai Luo and was using Lin Feng to vent his anger. Could he humiliate and bully him as he wished? Du Bai had asked Lin Feng a question and Lin Feng didn't even feel like replying but still gave him an honest answer. Humph. How arrogant. Don't think that because you are a little bit popular, you can let it go to your head. The fact that you can resist one of my blade attacks doesn't mean that you can resist a second one. Said Du Bai in an ice-cold way. He was clearly threatening Lin Feng. Arrogant? Lin Feng was smiling coldly in his heart. On that day, Lin Feng had stopped his blade attack, but could it be that Du Bai thought that Lin Feng could only survive one attack? And on top of that he thought Lin Feng could not attack him in return. Du Bai sounded arrogant and threatening. He wanted to regain the prestige that he had lost a moment before and was using Lin Feng as a stepping stone. He had just gone through a crushing defeat against Zhong Bai Luo and needed to regain his image. In 3 days, I, Lin Feng, will be waiting for you here. At that moment, we will see if I can survive a second attack," said Lin Feng indifferently. Immediately after, he started to leave. However, when the crowd heard Lin Feng, they were stupefied. Lin Feng was just like Zhong Bai Luo, he was challenging Du Bai. Du Bai had said that Lin Feng was arrogant and that he wouldn't be able to survive a second blade attack, but now Lin Feng was challenging him. The Dongling district was situated in the most eastern place of the imperial city. The hill of Dongling also had an altitude of a few thousand meters. From there, people could look into the distance. At that moment, Lin Feng's silhouette appeared on the Dongling hill, but he wasn't enjoying the view at all. Instead, he was just standing there, looking up at the sky. A moment before, Lin Feng could have fought against the injured Du Bai, but he chose to wait. When Lin Feng was still in the cultivation room practicing, he was asking himself what new skill he should learn. He was only an inch away from breaking through to the Xian Qi layer. What skill should he practice to battle with the Xian Qi layer and above? Lin Feng was confident that breaking through to the Xian Qi layer wouldn't be an issue. At that moment, his problem was choosing a suitable skill to learn. The cultivator of the Zun Qi layer had given him many extremely strong skills from his memories. There were a lot of Xian level skills, and even Tian level skills, but the problem was, would Lin Feng ever break through to the Tian Qi layer? There was also no problem in the type of skills he could learn. Lin Feng could learn all types of skills and techniques, his celestial spirit granted him the power of advanced comprehension. He could practice different hand skills to increase his power during unarmed combat. He was already an expert at using swords and was already stronger than most sword cultivators, should he pick a sword skill. He could basically practice any sort of skill. That wasn't the problem, the only problem was that he could not decide what type of skill to learn. Amongst the memories of the cultivator of the Zun Qi layer, there were many extremely powerful skills, which belonged to different categories. Amongst the memories of the cultivator of the Zun Qi layer, there were many extremely powerful skills, which belonged to different categories. There was one sword skill called Sword of the Dead Tree, its pure qi left a path of devastation. It was a skill which was specifically used to slaughter people. There was also an ice skill, which frees the entire world. It would freeze opponents along with their pure qi. There was a medical technique which could bring the dead back to life. A cultivator who knew that skill could bring someone who had recently died back to the world of the living. The skill came down to condensing pure qi to heal all injuries of the body. Those who learnt that skill were very few, the people who learnt it were revered. Those who knew such an incredible medical technique were appreciated by other cultivators. Many people tried to gain their favor as it may save their lives. After all, when getting wounded in battle, especially because of a monstrously strong attack, it was normally impossible for a cultivator to completely recover. Even if the external body seemed to have completely recovered, it could have caused injuries to the cultivation. But Lin Feng wasn't interested in a medical technique. He didn't have the heart of a saint. This skill would affect his entire future, and could even change his destiny. Lin Feng took that matter extremely seriously. All the memories of the cultivator of the Zun Qi layer were of extremely high-level skills. It was possible that Lin Feng wouldn't need to learn a new skill before breaking through to the Zun Qi layer. Lin Feng was extremely far from that cultivator's level. The strong cultivator of the Zun Qi layer was a legend. Such strong cultivators could flatten mountains. The sun was once again rising into the sky, but on the Dongling hill, there was a motionless and lonely silhouette. His eyes had remained closed throughout the whole period. The scorching sun was progressively getting higher in the sky and heating the world beneath. At the top of the Dongling hill, the temperature was rising as well. There was absolutely no place to go to avoid the scorching hot sun. The sun was obviously incredibly powerful. The sun would always rise and set, no matter how strong people were, they couldn't stop the sun from rising. At that moment, Lin Feng opened his eyes and a realization flashed through his eyes. He raised his head and looked at the sky. Surprisingly, Lin Feng was looking directly at the scorching sun that was high in the sky. "All right, it will be you," said Lin Feng looking calm. Cosmos burning Sunday Lin Feng would be able to practice under the scorching sunlight and absorb the pure chi of the sun, then he could unleash his power and burn the universe. Lin Feng had made up his mind, forgetting the other skills. The Cosmos Burning Sun skill wasn't an extremely high level, it was a D-level skill of lower quality but it could be improved. The stronger the pure chi of the sun was, the stronger the attack. The more powerful the pure chi of the sun was, the more brutal the attack was. If a cultivator managed to master the technique to an extremely high level, they could ignite the sky into a sea of flames. That skill became more and more powerful with time, but it was very hard to meet the requirements to practice it. Absorbing the pure chi of the sun would cause an intense heat to constantly burn inside the body, it required a lot of perseverance and determination. But Lin Feng had already made up his mind and didn't hesitate. He immediately sat down cross-legged on the top of the Dongling Hill. He started practicing the skill according to the instructions in his memories. Pure chi was revolving around his body. Sunlight was moving towards Lin Feng's body. Suddenly, there were many threads of hot light which started to move towards him. Immediately after, he quickly absorbed these threads of sunlight into his body. Not long after, Lin Feng's body was already dazzling. It seemed like his body had transformed into a pool of water, absorbing all of the hot sunlight from the heavens. An endless stream of sunlight continued penetrating into his body and merging with the chi inside his body. The pure chi inside his body was starting to burn with an intense heat. At the same time, Lin Feng's body was enduring the terrifying temperature. The scorching sunlight was mixing with the pure chi and at the same time, it was also penetrating into his flesh and muscles. The Cosmos Burning Sun was a skill which required sunlight. Therefore, while learning and practicing the skill, the more scorching hot the sun was, the better it was to practice. Besides, when it was cloudy and rainy or even during the night, there was always sunlight present, but it was much weaker. Unless a cultivator could master the skill to an extremely high level, it was very difficult to constantly attract the sunlight from the surroundings and make it flow steadily into the body. 2 days flowed by. Lin Feng had spent 3 days on the Dongling Hill. 3 days also meant Lin Feng's battle against Dubai was near. Lin Feng opened his eyes and a resplendent light, as dazzling as the sun could be seen. Besides, around Lin Feng's body was his pure chi. It already contained small threads of sunlight inside, therefore it was magnificent. Cosmos Burning Sun, it took me a while to understand it clearly, thought Lin Feng. That skill was monstrously powerful. It was an amazing skill but Lin Feng still thought that it took too long to learn. Actually, nobody else would have been able to learn it any faster than Lin Feng, he was too quick. In just a very short time, 2 days, Lin Feng's pure chi already absorbed a great deal of sunlight and he was now able to passively absorb the power of the sun. Lin Feng stood up and looked at the sun. It was dazzling. Finally, Lin Feng would one day be as dazzling as the sun. Even the sky and the earth had to fear the power of the sun. Lin Feng's body moved and he started rushing down the Dongling Hill. In a flash, his silhouette disappeared and he appeared at the foot of the mountain moving towards the Celestial Academy. After Lin Feng left, 2 silhouettes rushed to the top of the Dongling Hill. They had come to see where Lin Feng was practicing his cultivation. They both took a breath and their eyes were suddenly filled with wonder and amazement. What skill did he learn? Asked one of them in a low voice looking astonished. At the place where Lin Feng was sat, the ground was scorched and flames were starting to rise. The mark was clear and distinct, besides, the qi was strange. At that moment, smoke started to rise from the top of Dongling Hill. Lin Feng had no idea of what was happening after he left. He hadn't paid attention to the place where he was sitting and hadn't seen that it was now on fire. At the Celestial Academy, on the vast and broad public square, outside of the cultivation tower, many people had already gathered and were waiting. The crowd hadn't forgotten that Lin Feng and Dubai's battle was going to happen on that day. The other day, Xiong Bai Luo had defeated Dubai magnificently. Xiong Bai Luo had become the top ranked in the academy. However, the one who used to be the best disciple of the Celestial Academy couldn't accept his crushing defeat against Xiong Bai Luo, who had used him as a stepping stone. He had asked Lin Feng if he had lost because of his spirit, but Lin Feng had said that it was more the weakness of the person than the weakness of the spirit which had infuriated Dubai. He then insulted and threatened Lin Feng. All of these things had led to the challenge. It resembled Lin Feng and He Mo's battle. People had seen Lin Feng for the first time back then and had noticed how carefree he was. Not much time had passed yet Lin Feng was already well known within the academy. However, his opponents were not people like He Mo, who were at the bottom of the rankings of the academy. Instead, his opponents were those at the top of the rankings such as Dubai, who had already broken through to the Xian Qi layer. People were looking forward to that battle. It was definitely going to be incredible. Dubai had threatened Lin Feng and said that just because he could survive one blade attack, it didn't necessarily mean that he would be able to survive a second. Very quickly, there would be an answer to this. In the sky, brutal and violent blade energy emerged. It was extremely sharp and had enveloped every single thing in the atmosphere. That blade energy made people's hearts feel extremely cold as if they were being forced to kneel before it. The crowd was gazing into the distance and saw that Dubai was riding on a blade of pure qi. That blade was emitting whistling sounds in the air and it looked majestic. At that moment, Dubai didn't look dispirited like when he had fought against Xiong Bai Luo. He looked arrogant and again, but his eyes were filled with hatred. He was using Lin Feng to wipe away the humiliation he had endured. He wasn't the best in the academy anymore, but it didn't mean that he had to lose all of his prestige and reputation. Dubai was moving towards the cultivation tower, in the sky above the crowd. He coldly glanced at the crowd, smiled coldly and said, "Since he doesn't dare to show his face, it means that Lin Feng, from the very beginning, is just coward who likes to talk big. It seems like I overestimated him and it was a mistake to come here today." The crowd glanced right and left and then everybody started whispering. Lin Feng really hadn't come. Could it be that Dubai was right? Lin Feng was just a coward. Last time, he didn't fight against Xiong Bai Luo and now, he wasn't fighting Dubai either. Your cultivation and lack of skill is disappointing, it no wonder that you lost against Xiong Bai Luo, said a voice which filled the atmosphere and stupefied him. He turned around and saw a figure at the top of the cultivation tower. Lin Feng could be clearly seen atop the cultivation tower, smiling coldly. He said, "I've been here since the beginning, but surprisingly, you weren't even able to sense my presence, yet you surprisingly have the courage to say such arrogant things. You just like to show off, nothing more. It's not surprising that you lost the first position in the rankings." Lin Feng was standing at the top of the cultivation tower. Lin Feng despised Dubai. He definitely occupied a commanding position which perfectly matched his manner of speaking. Lin Feng sounded like he was reprimanding Dubai. Lin Feng was standing at the top of the cultivation tower. Lin Feng despised Dubai. He definitely occupied a commanding position which perfectly matched his manner of speaking. Lin Feng sounded like he was reprimanding Dubai. The crowd and Dubai were a bit surprised. Lin Feng had surprisingly been at the top of the cultivation tower the entire time. The fact that the crowd hadn't noticed him was excusable, but Dubai surprisingly hadn't noticed him either. Even though he was at the Xian Qi layer, it seemed like he lacked many things. Besides, Lin Feng was only a cultivator at the Ling Qi layer. Dubai's facial expression was hideous. He raised his head and glared at Lin Feng. He then said in an ice-cold way, "Arrogant or not, let's fight." Humph. Lin Feng smiled coldly. His sword energy was swift and fierce. Suddenly, a sword illusion appeared under Lin Feng's feet. He used the sword to fly through the sky. That sword was made from condensed pure qi. Lin Feng could already condense pure qi in such a brilliant way. Could it be that Lin Feng broke through to the Xian qi layer? Thought the crowd. That sword made from condensed pure qi wasn't something that a cultivator of the Ling qi layer was able to use. Even if Lin Feng hadn't broken through to the Xian qi layer, he was only a small step away. He was already at the very peak of the Ling qi layer. At that moment, Lin Feng and Dubai were staring at each other. In the same way, Dubai was also standing on a blade. They were both standing in the sky while releasing swift and fierce qi. A tiny little cultivator of the Ling qi layer, that's all, and yet you dare to talk big all the time. Today, I will carry out the second blade attack and you will understand that you are just an arrogant fool," said Dubai, sounding cold and detached. He raised his arm into the sky and the pure qi in the air started whistling and moving straight into the palm of his hand. He condensed the qi into a gigantic blade. It looked strong and sharp as if it could cut through anything in its path. Lin Feng was standing in the sky, motionless. He wasn't even taking out a sword. Dubai had an obvious mocking smile on the corner of his mouth. He wanted everybody to know that even if he had lost against Xiongbai Luo, not anybody could humiliate him. Nobody could despise him even if he had lost. It had been his first defeat and would remain the last one. Lacerate. His arms started rushing down towards Lin Feng. The gigantic blade was lacerating the atmosphere. The air was slightly being split apart like a parting sea. Lin Feng looked calm and serene. He was just observing the gigantic blade moving towards him. When it arrived just above his head, Lin Feng finally moved, as fast as the wind. It had just been a faint movement and Lin Feng had vanished from his initial position. There wasn't any sign of him on the ground either. Whistling sounds filled the air as the blade cut through the atmosphere. The gigantic blade had chopped down but hadn't come into contact with Lin Feng, but the blade force was still rushing down without stopping. He dodged so quickly. The crowd on the ground was gasping with astonishment, especially when they sensed the oppressing blade energy. They were so scared that they were shaking from head to toe. The crows was unceasingly dodging the energy. Boom! The blade made from pure qi continued to send its strength down, which crashed into the ground, making a cloud of dust rise into the air. On the ground, a huge and deep fissure appeared. People couldn't believe their eyes. However, Dubai didn't look proud of himself at all. His face was just filled with endless coldness. Lin Feng had dodged his blade attack so easily. That blade had been completely useless. He had attacked Lin Feng but wasn't even able to touch him. Wasn't that attack pointless? Dubai shouted furiously and condensed his pure qi again. A strong wind emerged and rolled through the atmosphere, emitting fluttering sounds. It was as quick as lightning. Lin Feng's silhouette slightly shook. A moment before, when that blade had moved towards him, he had sensed it because of his earth fusion. Even the tiniest grain of sand couldn't escape from Lin Feng's senses. At the same time, his agility techniques were extremely well developed. Unless the opponent's speed became monstrous and didn't give Lin Feng enough time to dodge, the opponent wouldn't be able to touch him. Besides, Dubai was using pure qi to make his blade even more brutal, which greatly influenced his speed. Therefore, he wasn't able to touch Lin Feng. Your words sound great yet lack substance. Is that the blade you are so intensely proud of? Do you think that, in a life and death battle, an opponent would stand still so you can unleash your blade attacks? If you can't touch me, how is this even considered a battle? Said Lin Feng, making fun of Dubai, which made him grow even more furious. The crowd was shivering. Indeed, during a battle, cultivators could use any number of skills and fought in different ways. Dubai had a blade spirit, which was extremely powerful and other people couldn't resist its power. There could only be one winner and one loser. Even though his blade was extremely brutal, if it always missed his opponent, it was useless, it was just a crappy blade. Of course, it was also due to the fact that Lin Feng was particularly quick with his acute senses. In fact, Dubai's blade wasn't actually that slow, otherwise, becoming a blade cultivator would have been pointless. "Are you just going to dodge my attacks?" joked Dubai. "I only dodge. Why don't you just simply admit that you are a crappy blade cultivator? Do you never dodge when you fight? Alright, we will see if you will take my attacks head on," said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. Immediately after, he raised his hand. The pure qi in the atmosphere started to spin. Battle energy as well as some deadly qi rose into in the sky. A sword, made of multiple types of pure qi, condensed in Lin Feng's hand. He looked like a deadly god of war. The sunlight started moving towards his body. A dazzling and resplendent golden light started to revolve around his sword, as it started to absorb sunlight. A scorching heat invaded the atmosphere and completely dominated the area. What a terrifying skill! People raised their heads and looked at the sword in Lin Feng's hand. It was as dazzling as the sun, and it was so bright that it blinded them. The battle energy was dazzling and burning bright, but the scorching light was even more painful to the eyes. Lin Feng took a step forwards and his sword energy filled the atmosphere. It was monstrously violent as it pierced through the air. "Dubai, the other day, I withstood your first blade attack. After that you became arrogant and said that I could only withstand only one of your attacks. I don't understand what gives you the right to say such arrogant words. You're a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer and you are still unable to reach me with your blade even though I am only at the Ling Qi layer. Surprisingly, you are not ashamed of spitting out such insanities. I really admire you for your shamelessness." Lin Feng stepped forwards again and his swift and fierce sword energy bombarded the atmosphere. His energy was becoming more brutal with each passing second. At that moment, Dubai sensed an extremely sharp and oppressive energy, as if his body was going to be ripped apart. He slightly frowned and suddenly had the sensation that Lin Feng's sword wasn't a single bit weaker than his own blade. "You are weak and yet consider yourself as a genius cultivator. You are unable to make any progress with your attitude. You lost against Zhong Bai Luo, which is normal, but the most shameless thing you did was to refuse my advice and take it as a humiliation when actually it could have greatly benefited you to heed my advice. Actually, it was because of the previous humiliation of losing against Zhong Bai Luo, because you cannot defeat the person who humiliated you, you directed your hatred towards me. You have already lost your determination on the path of cultivation. You are considered as a genius, but it is just an undeserved title," said Lin Feng. These words bombarded Dubai's heart. Indeed, he had lost against Zhong Bai Luo and had been strongly affected by that defeat. Therefore, when he had heard Lin Feng, he had become furious, wanted to kill him and threatened him. Dubai's energy was getting weaker and weaker. When the crowd saw that, they were astonished. Lin Feng's energy was becoming more and more powerful while Dubai was losing his determination because of Lin Feng's words. "Dubai, if you want to use me to prove something, I will show you that the so-called best disciple of the Celestial Academy is an undeserved reputation. You are just a trashy cultivator who put too much effort into breaking through to higher layers, nothing more." Lin Feng jumped in the sky and released an incredible amount of deadly sword energy. His sword was dazzling as it pierced through the sky and moved nearer to Dubai. Dubai raised his head and saw Lin Feng's sword, which was blinding to look at. It seemed like looking at Lin Feng's sword was like looking into the sun. It really looked like a small sun, so dazzling that he couldn't keep his eyes open and therefore couldn't look at Lin Feng. "Ah!" shouted Dubai. His arm transformed into a blade and slashed through the air. Once again, his attack had missed its target. Pierce. At the moment when Dubai had launched his blade attack, at the same time, Lin Feng also attacked. His sword pierced the sky, it was incredibly sharp and contained a scorching hot sunlight. The crowd was astonished. The smell of burning filled the atmosphere. That sword had pierced the atmosphere and it seemed like solar flames were burning the atmosphere itself. That dazzling sword had set the air on fire and a long trail of flames appeared in the sky. It looked incredible. Besides, at the same time, Dubai's blade was slowly vanishing inside that dazzling light. People in the crowd had their mouths wide open and were left breathless. They were only staring at that dazzling sword. People in the crowd had their mouths wide open and were left breathless. They were only staring at that dazzling sword. Such a sword attack had surprisingly been carried out by a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer, Lin Feng. Suddenly, they understood that Dubai was not a match for Lin Feng. Under that sword, a horrible shriek of agony filled the air. It was shocking. That horrible shriek had obviously been emitted by Dubai. The crowd only saw that incredibly proud young man, Dubai, slowly fall from the sky. Besides, his body was surrounded by flames, that sword attack had set him on fire. Dubai no longer had any arms left attached to his body. He would never be able to use his blade again. Ah! Shouted Dubai furiously while glaring at Lin Feng with hatred in his eyes. You say that I cannot withstand your second blade attack, but I just cut off your arm with my first attack. You only have yourself to blame, said Lin Feng coldly. While looking at Dubai, he said, I will not kill you. You came here to prove to everyone how extremely strong and powerful you are, but your arm is the price you pay for being insufferably arrogant and threatening me. Dubai had been defeated by Bai Luo and had wanted to use Lin Feng to regain his reputation. Nobody would have ever thought that he would end up losing his arm because of it. Dubai wasn't the best disciple in the Celestial Academy anymore, and on top of that, he wasn't even the second best either. Lin Feng had easily defeated him and could easily take his life. Bai Luo and Lin Feng were incredible geniuses. The only question was between Lin Feng and Bai Luo, who was the strongest. Initially, everybody already considered Bai Luo as the strongest in the Celestial Academy. That was because nobody, not even Dubai, could rival him. However, that day's battle had just shown them that being at the top in the ranking didn't necessarily mean they were the strongest, and also that rushing into a higher cultivation level, before you were ready, didn't necessarily increase a cultivator's battle power either. The one who used to be the top-ranked disciple of the academy, Dubai, had already lost 2 battles. On top of that, Lin Feng had cut off his remaining arm, making him completely armless, yet Lin Feng had been merciful and spared his life. As expected, it's the era of the geniuses, said people in the crowd while sighing. Each and every hidden genius was now starting to reveal their power. Lin Feng and Bai Luo were both good examples of people who had more power than originally believed. However, the so-called geniuses who didn't advance and give it their all were doomed. For example, Dubai had lost his reputation and lost his last remaining arm. Being a genius was a perpetual fight. If geniuses could rise, others could fall. For example, in Shuiyu, who knew if the 8 high officials would be the same in the following year? Who would become the genius of the geniuses? Who had what it took to shock the masses? Get lost, said Lin Feng to Dubai, which made Dubai's facial expression go rigid. The expression on the corner of his mouth seemed to indicate that he found himself to be ridiculous. He had thought that he was amazingly strong, that Lin Feng was the same as an insect before him. But at that moment, Lin Feng was dominating the entire situation and talking to him as if he didn't even matter anymore. Besides, if Dubai didn't leave, it would mean that even though he had lost his last arm, he still wanted to fight. He turned around, stepped on an extremely weak blade made from pure qi and left. His silhouette vanished into the sky, which made many people look disappointed. On the vast public square, various comments were spreading through the crowd. After that battle, the news would spread very quickly, and everybody would quickly know that Lin Feng had cut off Du Bai's arm. People were even trying to figure out what the new ranking list could look like. Everybody agreed on the fact that Qiong Bai Luo was the top ranked in the academy. Lin Feng was a bit weaker than Qiong Bai Luo, so the crowd thought that he would be ranked second. When Ao Shui's ranking, as before, wouldn't change, he was still the third best in the academy. The crowd had been completely dumbstruck by Lin Feng's performance, but they still considered Qiong Bai Luo as stronger than Lin Feng because he had broken through to the Xian Qi layer. His cultivation level was higher than that of Lin Feng. Besides, his blue void spirit was monstrously powerful. Nobody was able to escape his blue void underworld. If he wanted to kill Du Bai, he could have done it very easily. Because of all of this, people estimated that it would be extremely difficult for Lin Feng to defeat Qiong Bai Luo, who was monstrously strong. But the crowd also admittedly thought that even though Qiong Bai Luo was the best in the academy at the moment, that would probably change in the future. After all, Lin Feng was younger than him by a few years. Lin Feng had huge potential. When Qiong Bai Luo was at the same age as Lin Feng, he wasn't nearly as strong as Lin Feng. Qiong Bai Luo was monstrously powerful and best in the academy. Lin Feng had extremely high natural abilities and had the greatest future potential. However, potential couldn't be used to determine a cultivator's strength. For example, after Qiong Bai Luo had broken through to the Xian Qi layer, he had immediately challenged Du Bai and easily defeated him. He had thus become the best in the academy. It seemed like Qiong Bai Luo had become an entirely different person after breaking through. Even though Lin Feng had high potential, would he follow the same path as Qiong Bai Luo in the future? Nobody could predict the future. If Qiong Bai Luo could fight against Lin Feng, that would be the best, thought the people of the academy. They were thinking that in the past, when Lin Feng had come out right after Qiong Bai Luo had left, it was a pity. If the two of them had fought, wouldn't it have been an inspiring battle? Qiong Bai Luo knew nothing of the comments, which were spreading in the crowd. After defeating Du Bai and becoming the top-ranked disciple in the academy, he had confined himself for a few days to strengthen and consolidate the power gained from breaking into the Xian Qi layer. At that moment, he had just come out and was walking through the public square. He heard people's comments and whispers and learned that Lin Feng had also defeated Du Bai and that he, on top of that, had cut off Du Bai's last arm, making him unable to wield a blade. At that moment, everybody was comparing Qiong Bai Luo with Lin Feng. Qiong Bai Luo was walking unnoticed through the crowd, which showed the power difference between him and them. He then took off his bamboo hat, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Lin Feng is amusing. He is just a weak cultivator of the Ling Qi layer. Could he really overturn the heavens, said Qiong Bai Luo mockingly. He then smiled coldly and said, Du Bai is really worthless, he cannot even compete with a cultivator at the Ling Qi layer. If I had known that, I would have crippled his cultivation to help avoid him making a fool of himself again. When people around him heard his words, they turned around and looked at him. They couldn't help but be astonished. Qiong Bai Luo. Surprisingly, it was Qiong Bai Luo. Some people were gasping with astonishment. Immediately, more and more people started turning around and looking at him. Qiong Bai Luo was really there. Qiong Bai Luo glanced at the crowd with an extremely arrogant look. He enjoyed the sensation of being observed and worshipped by tens of thousands of people. He just had to show himself and he could draw everybody's attention. Lin Feng would never be able to steal his grandeur, he wasn't as charismatic. It seems like on that day, when Lin Feng and I didn't fight, you all have misunderstood something. Since you want to compare Lin Feng and me, I will show you who, between Lin Feng and me, the real genius of the academy is. I want everybody to clearly understand that Lin Feng, the one that you describe as a genius, is, in front of me, as worthless as Du Bai. Qiong Bai Luo sounded extremely arrogant. Immediately after, his silhouette flickered and shot through the sky, which made people shiver. Their eyes were twinkling. From what Xiong Bai Luo had said, it seemed like he wanted to fight against Lin Feng. He wanted to crush Lin Feng and be considered the sole genius of the academy. He wanted to be the only person at the top. Lin Feng also didn't know what was going on within the academy. Something incredible had occurred in the imperial city recently. In the eastern part of the city, there was a hill called the Dongling Hill. It seemed like the sun was shining on that area much more than usual, especially towards the top of the hill. It was particularly pleasant to go there to observe the sunset because the temperature was surprisingly much nicer than in other places. At that moment, at the top of the Dongling Hill, the atmosphere wasn't filled with warmth, instead, flames were invading the atmosphere. These flames were aggressive and blazing. These flames were incredibly monstrous and unyielding. Around the Dongling Hill, many people were astonished. Surprisingly, there was a fire. They were wondering what kind of strong fire cultivator would have set such a fire. Or maybe it had been caused during a battle between two extremely strong cultivators. It was possible that they created some flames made from pure qi, which ignited Dongling Hill. Besides, no matter what caused the fire, the cultivation strength must have been monstrous because, at this moment, the ground and the atmosphere itself were catching on fire. However, nobody noticed that when the flames rose, there was a person covered with sweat who seemed exhausted. That person was walking away, and with Dongling Hill to their back, they didn't even look back at the fire behind them. Lin Feng was slowly approaching the palace where the military students of the Celestial Academy lived. Lin Feng was slowly approaching the palace where the military students of the Celestial Academy lived. At that moment, his hair was extremely messy and he had dark stains all over his clothes. He also didn't smell too good because he was sitting in the intense heat for a long period of time, which was why people were not fond of approaching him in his current state. But Lin Feng's eyes were just as resplendent as before and still showed that profound unfathomable expression. "Lin Feng," said a voice which was filled with excitement. Lin Feng raised his head and saw a smiling man coming towards him. "Is there a problem?" asked Lin Feng. He didn't remember having ever met that man before. He didn't know him. "No, I just thought that we could talk about cultivation together. How do you practice cultivation? You are so young yet you are so terrifyingly strong already," asked the man while smiling. Lin Feng slightly frowned but he immediately smiled. "I just close my eyes," said Lin Feng while smiling. "Huh?" That man's eyes twinkled, he didn't understand what Lin Feng meant. "I close my eyes, this is my strategy when I practice cultivation," said Lin Feng with the same warm and friendly smile as before. The man looked like he was lost in thought for a moment but immediately after, he nodded, smiled and said, "All right." When he finished talking, he slowly closed his eyes. But at the moment when he closed his eyes, a strong whistling sound pierced through his ears. That man, whose eyes were closed, suddenly violently rushed backwards, a monstrous pure qi was flowing around his body. Such a technique was dazzling to behold. People who were around started shaking. It was another cultivator of the Xian Qi layer. Since when were there so many cultivators of the Xian Qi layer? They could be seen everywhere. "Die," said Lin Feng in a low voice. Deadly energy spread through the atmosphere. A sword immediately pierced the pure qi and penetrated into the opponent's chest. The man opened his eyes, he was blankly staring at Lin Feng. He couldn't believe his eyes. "You? How did you know?" asked the man with a husky voice. Dark red blood was unceasingly flowing from his wound. "You asked me to give you some advice but from the beginning to the end, you were not paying attention and just kept on the same fake smile on your face, don't you think that it looked incredibly strange?" said Lin Feng coldly and detached, still holding the dagger. If that person had really been one of Lin Feng's followers, he would have shown some excitement or confusion, he would have at least shown some type of emotion. Instead, that person had a fake smile and his emotions did not change at all. "You kill me by relying on something as unimportant as my facial expression," said that man, who, as before, couldn't believe it. "Of course not, your smile looked extremely fake indeed, but also, when we were talking, some deadly chi targeted me from behind. It was very well hidden before that, but they slightly lost focus and released some deadly chi, that, at least, gave me a reason to kill you," said Lin Feng, sounding ice-cold. When he finished talking, in a flash, a brutal and oppressive energy appeared around his body. Lin Feng's sword slightly moved and scorching hot fire chi attacked the opponent's vital organs and blood vessels. At the same time, he abruptly turned around. A spear which looked like a long dragon was rushing towards him. It was another cultivator of the Xian Qi layer. Lin Feng was wondering how it was possible that cultivators of the Xian Qi layer to keep appearing in groups to trap him. When he had only just broken through to the Ling Qi layer, he also considered cultivators of the Xian Qi layer as gods. He even almost never had the occasion to meet cultivators of the Xian Qi layer. After breaking through to the Xian Qi layer, he would possibly meet more of them. "You're an assassin and you can't even control your deadly qi. As an assassin, you are doomed to remain a failure forever." Lin Feng abruptly moved back as he critiqued his assassin. It was precisely because of him releasing a small amount of deadly energy that Lin Feng had understood what was going on, otherwise, he wouldn't have immediately attacked. If he hadn't attacked first, the opponent would have been able to attempt their trap. With one cultivator of the Xian Qi layer attacking from the front while the other was attacking him from the back, the situation could have been fatal for Lin Feng. But these two cultivators had only broken through to the first Xian Qi layer, so basically, Lin Feng didn't really care too much. When that assassin saw that one attack hadn't been enough and that he was unable to touch Lin Feng, the spear made of pure qi vanished. He turned around and started to retreat. Those who were trained to be assassins weren't good at fighting face to face. If their surprise attacks failed, they would retreat and try again. That was one of the assassin's rules. If the assassin stayed there and didn't manage to kill Lin Feng, it would draw the attention of the strong students. "You want to go?" said Lin Feng while smiling. Lin Feng took a step and rushed forward. In his hand appeared a sword made from pure qi which pierced through the atmosphere. "Stop!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. His sword was releasing a resplendent pure qi which was moving towards the opponent. That person could sense the powerful sword qi moving towards him. His facial expression went rigid. He then turned around and released an extremely strong pure qi to stop Lin Feng's sword. However, the pure qi collapsed immediately and the pure qi dispersed into the atmosphere, but that person used the force of Lin Feng's attack to propel his body further away from Lin Feng. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. Lin Feng's sword rushed towards the assassin and its light was dazzling as the sun. If others could see Lin Feng's sword, they would have the impression that they were looking directly into the sun. That assassin's facial expression drastically changed. He tried to condense more pure qi to block the attack, but Lin Feng's dazzling sword instantly reached the assassin, annihilating everything in its path. Once Lin Feng was infuriated, nothing could stop him. PSSSH, blood slashed into the atmosphere as the dazzling sword struck the assassin. He had been killed by the sword, but the moment his sword pierced his opponent, the opponent's body caught fire. The flames violently rose into the sky. In a short moment, that assassin was nothing but ashes in the wind. Not only did Lin Feng's attack have the same dazzling light as the sun, but it also contained the sun's scorching heat. It could burn anything. What a terrifying sword attack! Thought the people who had gathered around. Lin Feng was monstrously strong. Cultivators of the Xian Qi layer couldn't even withstand a single one of Lin Feng's attacks. Even in their dreams, the crowd would have never imagined such a scene. As far as they were concerned, cultivators of the Xian Qi layer were like gods and it was their dream to become one someday, but Lin Feng was shaking their beliefs. One sword attack had been enough to defeat the cultivators of the Xian Qi layer. In a very short amount of time, 2 assassins of the Xian Qi layer tried to kill Lin Feng and both ended up dead. They didn't even have an opportunity to fight back. They had just been killed on the spot. For trying to assassinate Lin Feng, they were killed. When Lin Feng saw the burning corpse, he still looked cold and detached, he was even still releasing a small amount of deadly qi. Last time, he had been ambushed by 2 cultivators of the Xian Qi layer but had been injured severely. He had even taken a few days to recover. It wasn't long after that 2 cultivators of the Xian Qi layer had appeared again using the same tactic. Apart from a few people with an incredible social status, Lin Feng had no clue as to who could send so many cultivators of the Xian Qi layer to kill him. "You Tianxing," whispered Lin Feng with a murderous expression on his face. One of the people who had started everything and helped with the original assassination attempt was Yu Tianxing. That was enough. Lin Feng turned and started walking. He entered the residence palace and went back to his living quarters. When Yi Shui saw Lin Feng, she was surprised. At that moment, Lin Feng looked like he had been having a tough time and he even smelt like smoke. "Master, I will help and prepare some hot water," said Yi Shui while walking towards the bathroom. She was smart and knew what she had to do. "I don't need hot water. Cold water is enough for me," explained Lin Feng to Yi Shui. It seemed that he really did need a bath. "All right," said Yi Shui. She didn't turn around and kept walking towards the bathroom. "What's going on?" asked Meng Qing while opening the door and coming in. She couldn't help but ask when she saw Lin Feng's appearance. "Nothing, it happened while I was practicing," replied Lin Feng while waving both hands to reassure Meng Qing. He then started walking towards her room. "Oh, that's all," said Meng Qing. Immediately after, she closed the door in Lin Feng's face, which stupefied Lin Feng and stopped him in his tracks. A wry smile appeared on his face. He was a bit annoyed. It was clear that Meng Qing was angry with him for some reason. Why was she acting so cold again? Will that ice goddess ever let her heart melt? Humph. Someone groaned by Lin Feng's side. It was Lan Jiao. She was sitting on a chair made of stone. She looked proud of herself as if she was gloating at Lin Feng's misfortune. Lin Feng looked at Lan Jiao and she immediately avoided his eyes, and looked somewhere else. She didn't want Lin Feng to meet her eyes. But immediately after, Lin Feng shook his head and said nothing. He immediately walked towards the bathroom. That move surprised Lan Jiao, who gnashed her teeth and furiously stamped her feet. She used to be extremely proud and arrogant, but since she was following Lin Feng, she kept being bullied and ignored by that shameless bastard. Lin Feng entered the bathroom and Yi Shui had already prepared the water. When she saw Lin Feng arrive, she said in a low voice, "Master, do you need me to help undress you and wash you while you bathe?" Lin Feng entered the bathroom and Yi Shui had already prepared the water. When she saw Lin Feng arrive, she said in a low voice, "Master, do you need me to help undress you and wash you while you bathe?" While talking, Yi Shui slightly lowered her head and an expression of shyness appeared on her face. Lin Feng was a bit surprised and scratched his head. A beautiful woman wanted to take off his clothes and wash him. He hadn't ever had such an offer before. But Lin Feng shook his head and said, "No need, thank you, you can go back to what you were doing." "All right," said Yi Shui while nodding. She then left while still looking at the floor and closed the door behind her. Lin Feng smiled and immediately entered the huge bathtub. In a flash, a cool and refreshing sensation spread through Lin Feng's body and he couldn't help but moan. When using his Cosmos Burning Sun skill, Lin Feng absorbed sunlight which penetrated into his body and then turned into pure fire qi. Lin Feng clearly sensed the scorching heat of these flames and even started to feel his blood vessels burning. Last time, he had set the entire Dongling Hill on fire, which proved how scorching hot his flames were. Therefore, when Lin Feng entered the cold water, he felt like he had just left hell and arrived in heaven. His body had finally cooled down, his pores opened and he felt extremely comfortable. Lin Feng closed his eyes and as if he was intoxicated with that refreshing and comfortable feeling, he fell asleep. Lin Feng had surprisingly forgotten that he was in the bath and fell sound asleep. These days, Lin Feng was exhausted and needed to relax. After some time, Lan Jiao and Yi Shui were outside and suddenly felt a scorching heat against their face. They couldn't help but be stupefied, they both looked at each other and immediately looked towards the bathroom. Yi Shui, is he still in the bath? Asked Lan Jiao perplexed. Yes, besides, he was having a cold bath. Nodded Yi Shui. She didn't understand what was going on either. Go and have a look. Said Lan Jiao to Yi Shui, who immediately blushed and replied, I think you should go and see. No way. Said Lan Jiao while shaking her head. Immediately after, she stopped looking in that direction but the heat was growing more and more intense and violent. Both of them were extremely curious. What is Lin Feng actually doing? Yi Shui, we could go together. Said Lan Jiao but Yi Shui, as before, shook her head, I'm not going. If you don't want to go, I'll go. Said Lan Jiao who couldn't control her curiosity any longer. She was taking triumphant strides as if she was heroically sacrificing herself. Yi Shui looked at her back with sparkling eyes. She was also very curious. Lan Jiao passed through the main door and then arrived in front of the bathroom. At that moment, a rich fragrance spread through the air and blew over her face. Surprisingly, it contained a burning heat, which stupefied her. Besides, from there, she could feel the scorching heat much more distinctly than outside. Even if someone had boiled water, it wouldn't have ever been that hot, would it? Could something have happened? Thought Lan Jiao and she immediately opened the door and entered the room. When she arrived in the room, she was stupefied. She only saw Lin Feng topless in the water, sleeping against the edge of the bathtub. The most shocking thing was that on Lin Feng's body, there was a sun pattern which seemed like it was alive. It was unceasingly absorbing the sunlight from the atmosphere along with the pure qi of heaven and earth. What kind of skill is this guy practicing? Lan Jiao was looking at Lin Feng who was sound asleep. Surprisingly, he was practicing his cultivation while sleeping and his body was facing the great dangers of that scorching heat. Besides, the water in the bathtub was boiling and it had almost entirely evaporated. Lan Jiao was observing Lin Feng and progressively looking downwards. Suddenly, her pupils became rigid. Because the water was evaporating, Lin Feng's completely naked body was revealed to her eyes. A moment before, she had been so fascinated by the sun pattern that she hadn't focused on anything else, until that moment. She suddenly felt extremely embarrassed and just wanted to find a hole to crawl into and hide. At the same time, Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes and saw Lan Jiao who was staring at him while he bathed. What are you doing? Asked Lin Feng which made Lan Jiao shiver. She raised her head and looked Lin Feng in the eyes, he was unceasingly blinking out of confusion. Eh! Lan Jiao screamed at the top of her lungs. She immediately turned around and ran towards the exit. She felt like her body was burning with embarrassment, she just wanted to hide away. What was she doing? She was staring at Lin Feng's body and the most horrible part was that he had woken up when she was fixedly staring at his naked body. She felt like a pervert, a peeper. When Lin Feng heard Lan Jiao's scream, he was dumbfounded. Then, he lowered his head and noticed that the water of the bathtub had evaporated. In a flash, his face turned entirely red as well, he remained completely silent. The most horrible thing was that Lan Jiao had screamed in such a way that people would think that Lin Feng had done something to her. What's wrong? Shouted Yi Shui from outside of the bathroom. Get in and you will see. When Lin Feng heard Lan Jiao's reply, he was stunned. Before he could react, he only saw Yi Shui run into bathroom. After she entered, she then screamed at the top of her lungs and also ran out of the room, leaving Lin Feng, who was still silent. Why were they screaming and running away? Who was the real victim here? What an abominable woman! Lin Feng gnashed his teeth. Lan Jiao had already seen him, but that hadn't been enough. She sent Yi Shui in after her. Lin Feng would definitely have his revenge. The Cosmos Burning Sun skill was way too violent and brutal. It could even make the water in a bathtub evaporate into nothing. Concerning the sun pattern which had appeared on his body, Lin Feng had no idea what it was. He was just thinking that his body had become like this because he was practicing the Cosmos Burning Sun skill and it enabled him to radiate his own heat. As expected, after having a bath, Lin Feng was feeling much better. However, he wasn't hurrying to leave. Instead, he poured some more cold water and washed himself a second time. That was the only way for him to feel absolutely comfortable before he put on his clean clothes. Immediately after his bath, he walked towards the courtyard. At that moment, Lan Jiao and Yi Shui were once again in the courtyard. Yi Shui had her head lowered and was unceasingly twirling her fingers out of anxiety. She didn't dare raise her head and look at Lin Feng. Her head was lowered but her cheeks and ears were extremely red. Concerning Lan Jiao, she was calmly standing on the bench made of stone, her eyes were closed, she even ignored Lin Feng, which made him gnash his teeth. Lin Feng was a virgin, in his previous life as well as in that new life. Having been seen naked by Lan Jiao was an abomination. Besides, she had even tricked Yi Shui into looking. Lan Jiao was really detestable. "Don't you have something to say to me?" asked Lin Feng coldly. Lan Jiao opened her eyes and looked at Lin Feng. "What do you want me to say?" "You could at least apologize," said Lin Feng while looking at Lan Jiao, who looked extremely arrogant and carefree. She wasn't shocked at all. "Why would I apologize?" said Lan Jiao while frowning. "I just glanced. Did you lose something? Besides, haven't you already seen me naked?" Lin Feng was speechless. He then said coldly and detached, "And when did I see you? You don't want to admit it. On that evening, try and dare say that the illusion didn't affect you. You also wanted to take my clothes off," said Lan Jiao fearlessly while staring at Lin Feng. She then added, "Or maybe what you mean is that you want to see me naked for real, in person. If that's what you mean, just tell me and I will compensate you. Don't hesitate and quickly tell me if that's the case, I will not get offended," said Lan Jiao in a seducing tone. Her body was moving nearer and nearer to Lin Feng. Lin Feng could already sense her voluptuous chest pressing against his body, which suddenly made his heat become even more intense. He was going to burn. "Say something. If you want to see me naked, I will show you." "Do you want to see?" said Lan Jiao, sounding more and more sensual. She looked extremely alluring. Lin Feng's mouth was extremely dry. She was truly bewitching. Lin Feng gnashed his teeth and glanced at Meng Qing's room. Immediately after, he looked at Lan Jiao with a cruel glance. He then turned around and walked towards Meng Qing's room. "You win," said Lin Feng. He had no way to win against her. What if he really wanted her to take off her clothes? "You know it, that's the most important thing," said Lan Jiao while looking at Lin Feng, who was walking towards Meng Qing's room. She sounded like she was proud of her victory. While looking at Lin Feng leaving, she sat down again. She no longer looked proud. Instead, her eyes revealed a lonely girl who felt ridiculous at herself. A wry smile appeared on her face. In Lin Feng's heart, there was only Meng Qing. Yi Shui raised her head, and when she saw Lan Jiao's facial expression, she shivered. Immediately after, she lowered her head again. In Lao Jiao's eyes, there was no pride at all, there was only sadness. Lin Feng immediately entered into Meng Qing's room as if he had entered his own room. Lin Feng immediately entered into Meng Qing's room as if he had entered his own room. If he had knocked at her door, Meng Qing would have pretended that she was sleeping and would have ignored him. Lin Feng had learnt from his mistakes and didn't knock anymore. Meng Qing was sitting up and looked at Lin Feng as he entered. There was a strange expression in her beautiful eyes and she said to Lin Feng, "Did you become stronger?" "Yes," nodded Lin Feng while smiling. "I have broken through to the Xian Qi layer. Soon, I will not need you to protect me anymore." When Meng Qing heard Lin Feng, she was stupefied. She suddenly felt a wave of sadness as she looked at Lin Feng and said, "What you mean is that you will no longer need me by your side anymore. How could that even be possible?" Lin Feng, at that moment, saw the hopelessness disappear from Meng Qing's face and instead she looked delighted. That girl was finally accepting her emotions a bit more with each day. Lin Feng walked towards Meng Qing and sat down next to her. He put one of his hands on her back and then shifted it to wrap around her waist, which made Meng Qing shiver. She wanted to move away but she couldn't because Lin Feng was using force to keep her close to him. He then pulled her into his embrace. Lin Feng had understood that he couldn't wait for Meng Qing to take the initiative. He was the only one who could move things forwards, a little bit at a time. In any case, Meng Qing would never get angry at him. Lin Feng wouldn't need a lot more time before he was stronger than Meng Qing. At that moment, Meng Qing wouldn't be able to watch over him anymore, she would have no choice but to accept it. When Lin Feng thought about that, he felt slightly happier. "Meng Qing, I will not need you to protect me anymore. However, I will be the one to protect you." When Meng Qing heard Lin Feng's warm tone, her heartbeat slightly accelerated. A beautiful and sweet smile suddenly appeared on her face but it lasted for only a brief second. She remained speechless. After a while, Meng Qing spoke, "Lin Feng, your body has changed, what skill have you learnt? Is it a fire-based skill?" "You could say that, yes. It's called Cosmos Burning Sun, it's a skill which uses the power of the sun. It enables a cultivator to use the pure qi of the sun, which is obviously extremely hot," explained Lin Feng, without hiding anything from Meng Qing. "Cosmos Burning Sun." Meng Qing was a bit surprised and added, "Lin Feng, when you start practicing Cosmos Burning Sun, it is a D-level skill of lower quality, however, when the pure qi of the sun becomes stronger, the skill level increases as well. It then becomes an authentic sun skill. It's monstrously powerful. How did you obtain it?" Lin Feng was surprised, he looked at Meng Qing curiously asked, "Meng Qing, how do you know these things?" "Because what I practice is a lower moon-based skill," replied Meng Qing. "Now, your Cosmos Burning Sun skill is a D-level skill of lower quality, it can also be considered as a lower sun skill but after, when your mastery of the skill will improve, it will become an authentic sun skill. In comparison with a lower moon skill, the Cosmos Burning skill can really ignite the sky and boil the oceans." Sun. Moon. There were also other lower sun and lower moon skills. Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. That sun on his chest wasn't the real sun, instead, it was just a part of its power. Meng Qing was only practicing a lower moon skill and yet her ice energy was already monstrously powerful. Besides, that Cosmos Burning Sun was a sun skill. No wonder that it was so scorching hot that it was able to make the water of the bathtub evaporate. "Meng Qing, since the Cosmos Burning Sun skill is little sun skill and that what you practice is a little moon skill, well." Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling and he was scratching his head. His lips vibrated, he smiled and said, "Meng Qing, do you want to practice cultivation with me? We could practice together." Lin Feng looked shy. Those days, he had already broken through to the Xian Qi layer but the two words, "practice together," were making his heart jump, up and down, especially that he had just asked the woman of his dreams, a goddess, to practice with him, Meng Qing. Asking her took all of his courage. When Meng Qing heard these two words, she looked stupefied. Her heart also started pounding, she was also very nervous. "Meng Qing, don't misunderstand me. I just want you to help you get rid of that painful cold. With my son's skill, I should be able to control your lower moon skill," said Lin Feng when he saw that Meng Qing was staring at him. He didn't feel at ease, but he was still trying to smile. When Meng Qing saw Lin Feng's facial expression, the ice in her heart finally melted and she smiled. Her smile looked like a beautiful lotus flower which appeared on a glacier. Lin Feng was dazzled. That smile was a way for Meng Qing to express herself. A magnificent and resplendent smile had appeared on her face and it could make an entire glacier melt. It was as if her beauty had penetrated into Lin Feng's soul. Lin Feng smiled as well, with his natural charm. Seeing Meng Qing smile, Lin Feng's smile was profound and meaningful, it came straight from the depths of his heart. "Lin Feng, give me more time, all right?" said Meng Qing in a soft voice which made Lin Feng's face go rigid. His heart was still pounding and he said, "Meng Qing, does that mean that you agree?" Meng Qing was requesting for some more time, which indubitably meant that she was tacitly agreeing. When Meng Qing saw how enthusiastic Lin Feng was, her eyes twinkled and her face turned red. She didn't dare look him in the eyes. But Meng Qing slightly nodded anyway. She had agreed. She was in love with him, how could she refuse? It's just that she was a bit scared when Lin Feng saw Meng Qing nod shyly. His heart started pounding once again. He had never even dared to think about practicing together with Meng Qing. He had the impression that it would be like blaspheming against the heavens. Back then, when Meng Qing appeared before him, she was of the Xian Qi layer and she was incredibly beautiful, which piqued Lin Feng's interest. He was a bit puzzled at first, but then deep in his heart, his feelings for her started to take up more space in his heart. Now that he had become much more powerful, he was also growing more bold. He wanted Meng Qing for himself and he didn't want to lose her. Even if she was a goddess of ice, so what? Lin Feng could make her heart melt, he wanted to protect her forever. Meng Qing was the one he loved. What Lin Feng didn't know was that, after having broken through to the Xian Qi layer, his awareness had also become extremely acute, which was why he used the opportunity to ask Meng Qing to practice with him. Besides, he had been pleasantly surprised by Meng Qing's reply. She surprisingly hadn't refused. Even though Lin Feng knew that Meng Qing liked him, her frozen heart was unable to express her feelings. Lin Feng had the feeling that a curtain was separating them, as if there was an invisible force and a lack of mutual understanding, but at that moment, that force had disappeared and Meng Qing wasn't hiding her feelings anymore. She had nodded and agreed to practice with him. That simple nod was a declaration of love. Lin Feng smiled with glee. He firmly and tightly hugged Meng Qing. When he saw her beautiful face only an inch away from his, he said in a soft voice, "Of course, I can give you some time, but for now." Her ice-cold lips gradually became warm as they came into contact with Lin Feng's lips. At that moment, the ice in her heart melted a bit more. Meng Qing and Lin Feng were in love. Meng Qing wasn't hiding her feelings anymore. She put her hands around Lin Feng and embraced him tightly. It wasn't a delicate kiss, Meng Qing had finally let her feelings burst out. "Master." At that moment, a voice interrupted Lin Feng and Meng Qing's passionate embrace. Meng Qing's face was bright red, she looked adorable. Lin Feng smiled at Meng Qing with a soft and tender look. He caressed her face, but felt annoyed at the interruption. It was Yi Shui. This really wasn't the right time to come and disturb him. "I'm going to see what's going on," said Lin Feng. "All right," said Meng Qing like an obedient and shy little girl. Lin Feng left the room and saw Yi Shui. She quickly said, "Master, a man who calls himself Nan Shan is looking for you." Nan Shan. Lin Feng frowned. What did he want? Nan Shan represented Duan Wuya. If he had come, it meant that the second prince was looking for Lin Feng. Lin Feng walked through the door and saw Nan Shan outside. When he saw Lin Feng arrive, a grave and stern expression appeared on his face. He tried to smile and said, "Lin Feng, His Majesty wants to see you." Lin Feng walked through the door and saw Nan Shan outside. When he saw Lin Feng arrive, a grave and stern expression appeared on his face. He tried to smile and said, "Lin Feng, His Majesty wants to see you." "The second prince wants to see me." "What's going on?" said Lin Feng a bit startled. The last time he had seen Duan Wuya was in Celestial River. On that day, Duan Wuya was wearing black and had brought 8 cultivators of the Xian Qi layer with him. He had been monstrously violent. He killed the king-class evil ectoplasm and seized the heavenly dragon cauldron. But after that, the cauldron had miraculously appeared before Lin Feng. What seemed like an extremely strong sword cultivator had offered the ancient cauldron to Lin Feng. Since Duan Wuya had initially taken the cauldron from Lin Feng, he probably hadn't voluntarily given it away. It was probably because someone had forced Duan Wuya to hand it over. But what Lin Feng didn't understand was who would have taken the cauldron from Duan Wuya and given it back to him. Besides, Duan Wuya was looking for him. Was it because of the ancient cauldron? Did Duan Wuya want to know if Lin Feng had the cauldron? "Young Master Lin, I don't know about His Majesty's personal matters," said Nan Shan while shaking his head with a faint smile. Lin Feng remained silent and immediately said, "Where are we meeting?" "Lovesick Forest," replied Nan Shan. "All right. Let's go," said Lin Feng indifferently while nodding. In Shuiyu, if the second prince wanted to make things difficult for Lin Feng could do nothing. Since Nan Shan had come, Lin Feng needed to go. "Thank you, young master," said Nan Shan while smiling. Immediately after, he turned around and led the way. "I'm coming too," said someone at that moment. The voice came from behind. Surprisingly, it was Lan Jiao and she was following them. "Why would you come?" asked Lin Feng while frowning. "You need to take care of me," said Lan Jiao, which made Lin Feng grow speechless. Immediately after, he started walking again and Lan Jiao followed him. The lovesick forest was calm and peaceful. Having peace of mind in that place was easy. The faint sweet fragrance of the lovesick alcohol filled the entire atmosphere, making people want to close their eyes and deeply breathe in the air. The jade-green bamboo trees were swaying in the wind. It seemed like another world. It was simple and elegant, and separated people from materialistic ambitions and made them feel at peace. How beautiful! Lan Jiao, who was walking on Lin Feng's side, was looking around at the beautiful landscape. She couldn't help but gasp in amazement. "Lin Feng, where are we? That alcohol smells very special." Lan Jiao was very curious. Few people had the chance to visit that place. This is the lovesick forest. The smell is that of the lovesick alcohol. When someone drinks it, the person that they love will appear in their heart, said Lin Feng, which stupefied Lan Jiao. Alcohol could make you feel love? Lan Jiao sounded like she couldn't believe it. "Wait, you'll try some and see," replied Lin Feng. She really couldn't wait. A moment after, Nan Shan brought Lin Feng to a private room in the middle of the bamboo forest. At that moment, 2 people were playing chess. One of them was Duan Wuya. The other person was the amazing Duan Xinyi. When these 2 people saw Lin Feng arrive, they both stopped what they were doing and looked towards Lin Feng. "Lin Feng, you came," said Duan Wuya while smiling and slightly nodding at Lin Feng. Besides, when the beautiful Duan Xinyi saw Lin Feng, she shouted, "Lin Feng." Lan Jiao looked at Duan Xinyi and then at Lin Feng and noticed that they were both looking at each other in different ways. Duan Xinyi was looking at Lin Feng in a soft and gentle way. Lan Jiao was a woman and she could clearly see what was going on. Besides, that woman was extremely beautiful. She looked elegant and noble. Her face also looked very delicate. In comparison with Duan Xinyi, Lan Jiao was extremely far from matching her beauty. It made Lan Jiao feel uneasy. No wonder her thousand evil illusions technique had no effect on Lin Feng. On Lin Feng's side, there was the beautiful and pure Meng Qing, then there was that elegant and noble Duan Xinyi, no wonder. But that guy was really lucky. Meng Qing was obviously wonderful, but Duan Xinyi also seemed to have an extraordinarily high social status, and surprisingly, she also had feelings for Lin Feng. Second prince, princess. Replied Lin Feng, this was also to let Lan Jiao know their social status. Amazingly, the girl was the princess of Shuiyu. No wonder she looked so extraordinary. Lin Feng, don't call me princess. Call me Xinyi, alright? Said the incredibly beautiful Duan Xinyi as if she was slightly saddened by him being formal. Lin Feng had been in her heart for a while. When she heard Lin Feng call her princess, she felt that he was putting distance between them, too much distance. She didn't like it when Lin Feng treated her the same way as everybody else. Lin Feng remained silent and immediately nodded. Xinyi, said Lin Feng, which made Duan Xinyi give a satisfied smile. She then immediately walked towards him and suddenly grabbed Lin Feng's arm. She then said, Lin Feng, let's play chess. Alright. Duan Wuya was looking at them with a smile, yet not a smile on his face. He shook his head, smiled and said, when a girl is of age, she needs to hurry and get married. My sister is hopeless. When Duan Xinyi heard Duan Wuya, her face turned red. Even though the situation was a bit embarrassing, she didn't stop holding Lin Feng's arm. Lin Feng had seen her naked. He felt like nothing was impossible anymore. After Lin Feng left her, Duan Xinyi was constantly thinking about Lin Feng, and she couldn't get his image out of her mind. She couldn't help but think about him constantly. From that moment, she didn't think of herself as a princess when being with Lin Feng, so he had to drop the formality. She promised that if Lin Feng came back to the imperial city, she wouldn't let him leave her side again. Lin Feng was smiling wryly. He obviously understood her feelings very well. Lin Feng, play chess with my sister, said Duan Wuya while smiling. Immediately after, he looked at Nan Shan and said, let's go and take a walk by the lake. When he finished talking, he slightly smiled at Lan Jiao, but Lan Jiao glared icily at him. That face was familiar. From the second prince's status and his familiar eyes, Lan Jiao guessed that this young man was the one who was wearing black in Celestial River. He was also the one who killed all the escaping members from the Cosmic Pavilion. When Duan Wuya saw that Lan Jiao's eyes were filled with hatred, he kept smiling warmly as before and said, do you want to come for a walk? All right, said Lan Jiao coldly. She didn't want to refuse. She then left with Nan Shan and Duan Wuya. Next to the stone table in the middle of the bamboo forest, Lin Feng and Duan Xinyi were the only ones left. They both sat down on stone chairs. Duan Xinyi looked at Lin Feng and asked, how are you? I'm fine. Nodded Lin Feng. He didn't really know how he should reply. How come you haven't come to see me in such a long time? Asked Duan Xinyi, which made Lin Feng feel a bit surprised. He then smiled wryly and said, I was extremely busy in Yangzhou City. Is that so? And who is that beautiful woman with you exactly? You found her in such a short time, said Duan Xinyi, sounding bitter. Meng Qing had already crushed her confidence. She was way too beautiful and pure. Duan Xinyi was a princess in the mortal realm, but Meng Qing was a celestial goddess. And now, a new beautiful woman had appeared by Lin Feng's side. Even though she wasn't as beautiful as Meng Qing, she was also extremely beautiful. She had a particularly alluring body and looked extremely seductive. She probably attracted lots of men. Her name is Lan Jiao. We accidentally crossed paths, replied Lin Feng while smiling wryly. Oh. replied Duan Xinyi in a soft and gentle voice while lowering her head. Then, she silently looked at the chess board and said, Lin Feng, come, let's play chess. I am extremely bad at chess, Xinyi, you will have to show mercy. Said Lin Feng with a faint smile on his face. Chess in his previous life and in the world of cultivation was quite different. Lin Feng knew almost nothing about the game in the cultivation world. Don't worry. I will definitely show mercy, said Duan Xinyi while giving a mischievous smile. When they started playing chess, Duan Xinyi was speechless. She was extremely good at playing the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, but after Lin Feng said he was bad at chess, each of his moves were perfect. Lin Feng, as expected, it seems like you are really bad at chess, said Duan Xinyi while gnashing her teeth. Her snowy white hand firmly grabbed a piece, but she didn't know what to do against such advanced moves. When Lin Feng heard Duan Xinyi's statement, he smiled wryly. He initially thought that he couldn't play chess, but amongst the memories of the strong cultivator, there was something which gave him the feeling of an experienced strategist. It was if he could control all the pieces on the board, as if it was an army. Officers experienced in strategies were all excellent chess players. I don't know what's going on either, replied Lin Feng, unable to explain. Immediately after, he saw Duan Xinyi's face turn pale. Using both her hands, she knocked all of the pieces off the board while saying, I'm not playing anymore, I've had enough. When Lin Feng saw that extremely graceful and elegant princess act like a spoilt little girl, a strange expression appeared on his face. At that moment, Duan Xinyi was so adorable that Lin Feng's heart started to feel warm. Xinyi, let's go outside have a walk, said Lin Feng when he saw the chaos that happened to the chessboard. Xinyi, let's go outside have a walk, said Lin Feng when he saw the chaos that happened to the chessboard. Duan Wuxia had invited him to come, but it seemed like it was only because of Duan Xinyi. It didn't seem to have anything to do with the ancient cauldron, but Lan Jiao and Duan Wuxia were together. Lin Feng was afraid that Lan Jiao would lose her temper. After all, in Celestial River, Duan Wuxia had killed Aunt Yun, who was very close to Lan Jiao. All right, nodded Duan Xinyi. Immediately after, she stood up and joined Lin Feng on a walk through the bamboo forest. Deep in the forest, there was a brook which was softly emitting the sound of running water. There was also a small bridge which crossed it. The scenery was enchanting. Duan Xinyi raised her head and looked at a bird that was resting on the emerald green bamboo. She suddenly looked pensive and said in a soft voice, I wish I could one day have a house here with the one I love. It would be so wonderful. Lin Feng was surprised and immediately smiled wryly. The situation was awkward for Lin Feng. He then said, the one who created the lovesick forest probably had the same thought, which is why they created such a beautiful place. Yes, she was very stupid. She stopped all contact with her clan because of the lover she chose, nodded Duan Xinyi. When Lin Feng heard Duan Xinyi heard Lin Feng, he became very curious. He couldn't help but ask, who's the owner of the lovesick forest? Duan Xinyi looked at Lin Feng, smiled and said, the person who used to be called the most beautiful woman in the entire country, Yu Menghe. The most beautiful woman of Shuiyu? Lin Feng was surprised. Duan Xinyi was extremely beautiful and had an extremely high social status, but she had never gained the title of most beautiful woman in the country. However, that Yu Menghe had been considered as such, Lin Feng was curious to see such a beauty. Yu Menghe, whispered Lin Feng, and immediately after, he looked at Duan Xinyi and said, her family name is Yu. Duan Xinyi slightly nodded and said, you immediately guessed it. Indeed, she belongs to the Yu clan. Besides, in the past, she was considered to be the most gifted disciple of the Yu clan, to the extent that was even considered as the strongest woman in the entire country of Shuiyu. Even amongst men, rare were those who could compete with her. Lin Feng was becoming more and more curious. Lin Feng was really wondering what such a woman could be like. Amazingly, she was the most beautiful woman and the strongest woman of the country, and on top of that, there were extremely few men who could defeat her. But it's weird though, since she has such high natural abilities, why did the Yu clan reject her? They should have put her at the core of the clan. Why did they stop contact? Asked Lin Feng, who didn't understand. The Yu clan wanted to compete with the Imperial clan, and the Yu clan, having an extremely gifted disciple, would have only been an advantage. Why would they stop talking to her? That happened 18 years ago. At that time, the situation was still the same as now. The Duan clan, the Yu clan and the Yu clan were all extremely strong, but my Duan clan and the Yu clan were slightly stronger than the Yu clan because of our special spirits. As far as strength was concerned, no matter if we're talking about today or before, the Yu clan cannot rival the Duan clan or the Yu clan. They were and are much weaker. In terms of wealth, the Yu clan isn't as wealthy as the Duan clan and the Yu clan. Amongst the three biggest clans, the strongest and the wealthiest is the Duan clan, which is how the power balance was created. Besides, the Yu clan is second strongest clan in the country. Duan Xinyi was speaking slowly and continued, in Shuayu, 4 prodigious junior cultivators appeared. One of them belonged to the Duan clan and one to the Yu clan, who have the extremely strong blood spirits. Then, there was one who came from a clan of sword cultivators, the Zhuge clan. They transfer their sword skills from generation to generation. So the third prodigy was from that clan and is called Zhuge Wuqing. Then, the fourth person didn't belong to an influential clan. Instead, that person was absolutely unknown in the past. Nobody knows exactly where he came from. Actually, I only know that just like you, his family name was Lin. He suddenly rose as a prodigy in the imperial city and possessed a dual spirit. The 4 prodigies of 18 years ago had a much more terrifying power and strength than the 8 high officials of today and were extremely famous. Amongst these 4 people, there were 3 young men and a young girl. That young girl was precisely the most beautiful woman in Shuayu, Yu Menghe. Lin Feng, imagine, being considered as the most beautiful woman of the entire country and as the strongest and most gifted woman as well. She was the best disciple of the Yu clan. She was a genius. That woman made the 3 men's hearts shake. It seemed like Lin Feng understood what had happened. The 3 incredibly strong prodigies fell in love with that woman, whispered Duan Xinyi as if she was imagining the story. Every time she heard the story, she was very moved. She couldn't help but sigh. There was more to know about the story of that heroic woman though. But Yu Menghe didn't choose the strongest of them, the one from the imperial clan. She didn't choose Wuqing the sword master either. Instead, she fell in love with the unknown young man. You can imagine how the Yu clan reacted and they found out that Yu Menghe and that unknown prodigy were together. She had a lot of pressure from her clan. Lin Feng lightly nodded. She had chosen neither the strongest cultivator or the monstrous sword cultivator Zhuge Wuqing. Instead, she had fallen in love with a prodigious young man who had no social background. That was a calamity for her clan, as one could well imagine. Besides, in the beginning, the Imperial clan and the Yu clan had an agreement. They wanted one of their boys and one of their girls to marry. The prodigy of the Duan clan had a marriage agreement with Yu Menghe. Besides, the prodigy of the Duan clan was an extremely aggressive and arrogant person. Said Duan Xinyi while shaking her head, which startled Lin Feng. However, he was slowly understanding why Yu Menghe and her clan had stopped talking. After that, there was a huge pressure on her shoulders. The couple decided to elope and leave the country. Zhuge Wuqing's heart was broken into 1,000 pieces. He just kept practicing sword cultivation. Besides, he didn't put Yu Menghe and her lover in a difficult situation, even though his passion for her reached the heavens. But Yu Menghe and the prodigious young man didn't manage to hide. The people of the Imperial clan and of the Yu clan found them. Besides, at that time, Yu Menghe was wakened for some reason. When the prodigious young man saw that they would never succeed in escaping, he decided to send Yu Menghe back to the Yu clan and fought against the prodigy of the Duan clan in a decisive battle. In the end, the cultivator from my clan won the battle. He sealed the young prodigy's spirit and expelled him from the imperial city. Of course, I've heard this story many times. My mother used to tell me these stories. I was born shortly after that battle. Besides, my parents don't allow me to tell anyone else about that story. You have to keep it a secret, Lin Feng, it's a secret between us, said Duan Xinyi. At that moment, Lin Feng looked disappointed. Duan Xinyi and he hadn't witnessed the events 18 years before, but they were still profoundly moved by that story. They had no choice but to rely on their imagination to have an idea of what it must have been like. They had fought because of a beautiful woman. In the end, the unknown young man had left with his soul sealed. Maybe deep in his heart, he had never given up on getting her back. But even if he didn't want to give up, what could he do? He had been able to leave alive, that was already amazing. Lin Feng looked a bit disappointed and looked at Duan Xinyi, a secret between them. Lin Feng looked a bit disappointed and looked at Duan Xinyi, a secret between them. Could it be that what happened 18 years ago was still a secret? But Lin Feng nodded in agreement and Duan Xinyi smiled. After Yu Menghe's love left the imperial city, she stopped all contact with her clan, purified her heart and adopted a minimalist lifestyle. She created the lovesick forest and the lovesick alcohol, which gives birth to feelings of love in people's hearts. At that moment, Duan Xinyi and Lin Feng had already left the bamboo forest. She then continued, besides, the one from the Duan clan gave up and started devoting his life to cultivation. He even gave up his status as the monarch. It is said that these days, his cultivation level is monstrous and incredible. Very few people know how strong he really is. At that moment, Duan Xinyi paused, blinked and continued, maybe Yu Menghe knows about it, but since the event that happened 18 years ago, she rarely shows herself. Zhuge Wuqing and the unknown genius are also like this as well. Lin Feng nodded. 18 years was a long time, maybe they had already left Shuiyu and would never come back. Without even realizing it, the two of them arrived at the lakeside not far from the pavilion. When Duan Wuya saw them, he slightly smiled and said, Xinyi, Lin Feng, how come you have already finished playing? Duan Xinyi's face was red and she slightly lowered her head. Lan Jiao looked at Lin Feng at that moment and asked, when are we going back? Lin Feng and I rarely have the opportunity to meet, why hurry and leave? Lin Feng, let's go and have a drink, said Duan Wuya while smiling, but at that moment, Lin Feng was watching something behind Duan Wuya. When Duan Wuya saw that, a profound and meaningful smile appeared on his face. Immediately after, he slowly moved and let Lin Feng look at what was behind him. At that moment, in the pavilion on the lake, there were many people. They were all young people and had magnificent clothes. Each and every single one of them looked extraordinary. These people were all noble cultivators and all had extraordinary social statuses. Besides, Lin Feng noticed one person in particular. At the same time, that young man also noticed Lin Feng. They both stared at each other. That young man had a deep and profound expression in his eyes. Surprisingly, he looked scared and was fixedly staring at Lin Feng. That young man was Yu Tianxing. Besides, by Yu Tianxing's side, there was also Yu Tianchen. Those two were really extremely close friends, it seemed. The funniest part is that even though they acted together, Lin Feng always came out on top. All these chatting young men suddenly stopped talking as if they had sensed that something strange was going on. Lin Feng was gradually releasing a deadly qi which invaded the atmosphere. His eyes were filled with killing intent. When Lin Feng saw Yu Tianxing's facial expression, he immediately understood that the assassins who had tried to kill him before had been sent by Yu Tianxing and Yu Tianchen, otherwise, they wouldn't look so scared when seeing Lin Feng. As expected, Yu Tianxing was trying to take his revenge. The air was filled with an oppressive deadly energy. Lin Feng's killing intent was becoming clearer and clearer. "Lin Feng, what are you doing?" said Yu Tianxing, sounding cold and detached. However, his face still showed that he was scared. "What are you doing?" Lin Feng said nothing and walked towards the pavilion. While walking on the long bridge, Lin Feng's energy was becoming denser and more powerful. Yu Tianxing firmly gnashed his teeth and kept fixedly staring at Lin Feng. What monstrous deadly energy! Under the power of the deadly energy, Yu Tianxing started shaking from head to toe. He was drenched in cold sweat. At that moment, Lin Feng looked extremely murderous, as if he was going to start killing at any moment. "Lin Feng, my family name is Yu, remember that I am from the Yu clan," said Yu Tianxing when he saw that Lin Feng was not responding. When the crowd heard Yu Tianxing, they were all stupefied. It seemed like Yu Tianxing was extremely scared of Lin Feng, otherwise, he would have never said something like that. "I know." Lin Feng finally replied, but his deadly energy didn't disappear. Yu Tianxing was fixed staring at Lin Feng and said, "Since you understand, you probably know that if anything happens to me, the Yu clan will be furious. Besides, we are not just any clan. I hope that you deeply consider these things." Yu Tianxing was explaining everything to Lin Feng almost as if he feared that Lin Feng didn't know his status and how strong the Yu clan was. Yu Tianxing was scared of Lin Feng, extremely scared. He deeply and bitterly hated Lin Feng since the first time he was attacked by him. Because of hatred, he had been constantly sending people to kill Lin Feng. And he was scared because Lin Feng was extremely carefree. Lin Feng could be considered a madman. He didn't care about any consequences. He had even dared kill Duan Han and cause trouble at Wen Renyan and Duan Yu's wedding ceremony, where he dared to kill Wen Renyan and Duan Lai. Therefore, Yu Tianxing was afraid of Lin Feng. If Lin Feng was furious, he would kill him on the spot. "I know," said Lin Feng as coldly as before, looking completely unmoved. "Since you know, move away," said Yu Tianxing, who wanted to leave but didn't dare because Lin Feng was crossing the bridge. He didn't want to go anywhere near Lin Feng. If Lin Feng really wanted to kill him, he wouldn't be able to leave. He was currently a lamb in a tiger's den. "Move away." Lin Feng smiled coldly. His deadly energy was not growing weaker, on the contrary, it was becoming much more violent. The deadly energy which was becoming more and more powerful made Yu Tianxing's body become rigid. He felt like he was freezing. "Since you know that my family name is Yu, and you know that the Yu clan has a lot of influence and power, and since you perfectly understand that if you touch me, the repercussions will be grave, how come you are not moving away?" Yu Tianxing sounded like he was threatening Lin Feng. At that moment, the situation was not safe and he was feeling an impending danger. Because he felt such danger, he was threatening Lin Feng and hoping that Lin Feng would open a path of escape. But Lin Feng was as unmoved as before. He remained absolutely motionless as if nothing would make him leave. Deadly energy was violently fluctuating in the air. At that moment, behind Yu Tianxing, the others were glancing at each other. Just as the rumors said, Lin Feng was insane. Yu Tianxing was also staring at Lin Feng and frowning, especially when he noticed that Lin Feng and Duan Xinyi had come together. His heart felt painful. Because of the marriage agreement between the Duan clan and the Yu clan, he had always hoped to become Duan Xinyi's husband, but Duan Xinyi wasn't interested in him at all. However, Lin Feng seemed to be very intimate with her. Yu Tianxing was angry. He also wanted Lin Feng to die, but Lin Feng was constantly becoming stronger and stronger. Even cultivators at the Xian Qi layer couldn't kill him. What made him extremely scared was that he didn't ever know what Lin Feng was thinking. He didn't know when Lin Feng would attack him. Lin Feng didn't reply to Yu Tianxing and remained silent. He was just standing on the bridge without moving, and still releasing his deadly energy which was filling the atmosphere. Nobody knew what he was thinking. Yu Tianxing and the others also remained silent. In such an open space, the silence was terrifying. Duan Wuya looked indifferent and expressionless. He was calmly watching the scene. It seemed like these things had nothing to do with him. Besides, Lan Jiao looked at Duan Wuya and understood what he was thinking deep in his heart, even though he was expressionless. At that moment, she had already understood that Lin Feng and Yu Tianxing were enemies. Besides, a short time before, Duan Wuya had been spending some time with Yu Tianxing and the others. It seemed like they were also friends. But Lin Feng had been invited by Duan Wuya, and from what was happening at that moment, he also knew that Lin Feng and Yu Tianxing were enemies, but he had arranged for them meet on purpose. He clearly had something in mind. Of course, Lan Jiao was convinced that Lin Feng knew this as well. She wasn't going to get involved in Lin Feng's business though, she couldn't anyway. The oppressive energy floated in the silent atmosphere for a while and finally, Lin Feng's mouth moved and he said, "Are you a member of the Yu clan?" Yu Tianxing was surprised. He hadn't thought that Lin Feng would and such a stupid thing, but he still nodded and said, "Indeed, I am a member of the Yu clan and their blood runs through my veins." "Your clan, the Yu clan, is very powerful and influential, right?" replied Lin Feng again. "Indeed." Nodded Yu Tianxing. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with killing intent as he continued, "The blood of the Yu clan is flowing in your veins and the Yu clan is extremely strong, and you, Yu Tianxing, want to kill me. So shouldn't I kill you before you actually manage to kill me? If you kill me, the Yu clan will never let you off." When Yu Tianxing heard Lin Feng, he started shaking. "When I wasn't planning to kill you, did you let me off?" asked Lin Feng in a cold tone. "Since you originally wanted to kill me, since you never let me off, why wouldn't I kill you if I have the opportunity? Do you think that I can only wait for you to kill me without fighting back?" The crowd was astonished. Indeed, regardless of whether Lin Feng killed him or not, Yu Tianxing and the Yu clan didn't intend to let him off. Why should Lin Feng let Yu Tianxing off then? No matter what, in such circumstances, there was only one possible decision. To kill. Yu Tianxing narrowed his eyes and looked like a venomous snake. "What you mean is that you want to kill me?" Yu Tianxing narrowed his eyes and looked like a venomous snake. "What you mean is that you want to kill me? Indeed, you have no way out. I will kill you today or I am no better than a coward," said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. "Well, why are you not attacking me then?" asked Yu Tianxing. Lin Feng had been standing there for a while already, but he had only been releasing deadly energy and had remained at the end of the bridge, motionless. "Because I wanted to give you an opportunity," said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. "I gave you a chance to talk, but unfortunately, all you've been doing is threatening me and emphasizing the strength of your clan. Since it's that way, what else needs to be said?" When Lin Feng finished talking, he started to slowly walk towards Yu Tianxing. Lin Feng had given a chance to Yu Tianxing. A moment before, during that short time, he had been waiting for Yu Tianxing to apologize and make amends. The Yu clan was extremely strong, Lin Feng couldn't fight against them, therefore, he needed more time. He didn't want to provoke the Yu clan this early, it wouldn't be beneficial to him. Unfortunately, Yu Tianxing hadn't even thought about apologizing. He had only been threatening Lin Feng and speaking of how strong the Yu clan was, but that just infuriated Lin Feng. Even if the Yu clan was extremely strong, did it mean that Lin Feng would just sit and let Yu Tianxing kill him? Could Lin Feng ever wait for the Yu clan to kill him without fighting back? When Yu Tianxing heard Lin Feng, he started shaking. Lin Feng had already given him a chance. A moment before, regardless of whether Lin Feng wanted to kill Yu Tianxing or not, the Yu clan wouldn't let Lin Feng off anyway, therefore, since Yu Tianxing wasn't apologizing nor making peace, Lin Feng had no other choice. A moment before, Yu Tianxing did have the idea of apologizing and begging for a pardon, but only a fleeting thought. He wasn't able to sacrifice his face, which is why he resorted to threatening Lin Feng and saying how strong the Yu clan was. Even though he was scared of Lin Feng, in his subconscious, he was still convinced that Lin Feng would never dare to kill him because he was a member of the Yu clan and as such he has to protect the dignity of the clan. But at that moment, he could sense that Lin Feng's deadly energy become more violent, his confidence was starting to break. Lin Feng was someone who would dare to kill him. He looked at Lin Feng who was slowly moving towards him. Each of Lin Feng's steps seemed like he was stepping on Yu Tianxing's heart, crushing his beliefs. Lin Feng. Yu Tianxing finally opened his mouth while looking at Lin Feng who was walking towards him and said, "Lin Feng, if you don't kill me, I can guarantee that from today on, you will never have a problem with the Yu clan ever again." Lin Feng stopped walking, looked at Yu Tianxing and smiled coldly. "You are too arrogant. Today, I'm the one giving chances, not the other way around. I gave you an opportunity but you let it slip, therefore, it's too late already." Lin Feng then continued walking towards Yu Tianxing, which made his heart twitch painfully. Lin Feng had given him a chance but he had chosen the wrong path, therefore, there was no more possible compromises. "Lin Feng, you will never be able to resist the Yu clan's fury," said Yu Tianxing, whose was twisting even more violently, as he gnashing his teeth. Lin Feng just ignored him because it was unnecessary to waste any more words on him. Yu Tianxing had become Lin Feng's prey. When Yu Tianxing saw Lin Feng approaching, his heart started pounding violently. A deadly energy completely surrounded him. Lin Feng really wanted to kill Yu Tianxing. The others were also dumbstruck. Lin Feng would dare infuriate the Yu clan and kill Yu Tianxing. Yu Tianchen slightly backed away. This time, he wouldn't stand by Yu Tianxing's side. He was abandoning Yu Tianxing, who would have to face Lin Feng's wrath by himself. Yu Tianchen's eyes sparkled and he smiled coldly. Yu Tianxing and Yu Tianchen weren't friends at all. If they were sticking together, it was because they had a common enemy, Lin Feng. They both hated Lin Feng and both hoped for his death. But at that moment, Lin Feng wanted to kill Yu Tianxing. However, Yu Tianchen didn't only not try and stop him, but he was also laughing to himself. If Lin Feng killed Yu Tianxing, the Yu clan would be enraged. Lin Feng wouldn't be able to resist the Yu clan. If Yu Tianxing died, nobody would be able to save Lin Feng, not even the second prince. The Yu clan would never allow one of their members to be killed without doing anything, therefore, if Lin Feng killed Yu Tianxing, he was courting death. Yu Tianchen was, of course, delighted about that. When Yu Tianxing realized that Yu Tianchen was moving away from him, his heart was invaded by coldness. That bastard, he was abandoning him to be killed by Lin Feng. At that moment, Yu Tianxing was deeply saddened to end up alone. Lin Feng wanted to kill him and nobody was helping him. These days, who had the power to stop Lin Feng? Besides, Yu Tianxing was fully aware that this exact situation might happen, but he surprisingly thought that the power and influence of the Yu clan would be enough to make Lin Feng cower. "Lin Feng, if you still don't trust my word, I can swear to you that if you let me off, my clan will never raise a hand to you again," said Yu Tianxing, growing extremely nervous. He felt completely powerless at that moment. Lin Feng was only 10 steps from him. He finally realized that he might die today. The smell of death was extremely thick. Yu Tianxing knew that he might die at any more moment. Lin Feng ignored him. As before, the only sound in the atmosphere was that of Lin Feng's steps, which were resonating deep in Yu Tianxing's heart. At the moment when he was about to die, would Lin Feng really believe a single word he said about compromise? He had made too many mistakes and never attempted to make peace. Lin Feng wouldn't give any more chances. Lin Feng finally stopped walking. He was only 7 steps away from Yu Tianxing. It seemed like everything had happened so fast and he had appeared there in a flash. At the same time, a dazzling light which looked like sunlight appeared around Lin Feng's body, and it was filled with monstrous killing intent and deadly qi. Clop. Clop. Yu Tianxing was slowly walking backwards. When he sensed Lin Feng's qi, his heart felt like it was frozen. Lin Feng's qi had the power of the Xian qi layer. Lin Feng had already broken free from the chains of the Ling qi layer and had reached the Xian qi layer. At that moment, Lin Feng was terrifying. No wonder. No wonder all those people never came back. Yu Tianxing's heart was brutally and violently pounding. His heart was filled with hatred. Yu Tianxing had only been able to send cultivators of the first Xian qi layer to kill Lin Feng. As the fifth young master of the Yu clan, he had no authority over cultivators above the first Xian qi layer, therefore, he had never been able to successfully kill Lin Feng. He had stupidly put himself in that situation. A sword made of pure qi appeared in Lin Feng's hand. Yu Tianxing hastily yelled, "You can't kill me. The Yu clan will never let you off. You are arrogant and stupid," said Lin Feng while shaking his head. While slowly raising his sword made from pure qi, he said, "Even if I don't kill you, the Yu clan will never let me off. Since the Yu clan will always be my enemy, and considering the events today, how could I possibly let you live?" At that moment, everybody was looking at Lin Feng's sword made from pure qi. If that sword moved, Yu Tianxing would die. The crowd felt that they were suffocating under the powerful qi which had invaded the entire atmosphere. They were all only focusing on the sword in Lin Feng's hand, which started to descend. "Stop!" shouted an extremely aggressive voice. Deadly energy spread through the air. That aggressive voice made the atmosphere vibrate, and it contained a faint qi which pierced through Lin Feng's ear, leaving him slightly dumbstruck for a second. His sword stopped in the air, right above Yu Tianxing's head, and didn't descend any further. "Yu Qiu," said Lin Feng coldly while turning his head. That furious voice contained a faint trace of qi. It was similar to the attack that interrupted his battle with He Mo at the Celestial Academy. That voice belonged to Yu Qiu, the third elder of the Yu clan. When Lin Feng and He Mo fought each other, Yu Qiu's voice injured and stunned Lin Feng. As expected, when Yu Tianxing saw Yu Qiu at Lin Feng's back, his eyes suddenly revealed delight. He roared, "Third uncle, save me." The one who had shouted was indeed Yu Qiu. He was walking over the bridge, and there was two people with him, on his left and right. They were all releasing monstrously strong qi. All those three cultivators were at the Xian qi layer, and all belonged to the Yu clan. This time, Lin Feng had run out of luck. Maybe it would actually be Lin Feng who died today. Many people were thinking that Lin Feng had already infuriated the Yu clan. "Stop," said Lin Feng while the crowd was thinking. Lin Feng's voice was cold, ice cold. Besides, at the same time, Lin Feng's hand continued to move and his sword slightly moved down, which made Yu Tianxing give a horrible shriek as he closed his eyes. Yu Qiu and the two others were so shocked that they stopped in their tracks. That guy, everybody was looking at Lin Feng, whose sword made from pure qi was only an inch away from Yu Tianxing. Lin Feng was incredibly aggressive and unrestrained. At the moment when Yu Qiu and two other cultivators at the Xian qi layer arrived and walked towards him, Lin Feng still looked completely unaffected, and on top of that, his sword was still moving in for the kill. How audacious! That guy, everybody was looking at Lin Feng, whose sword made from pure qi was only an inch away from Yu Tianxing. Lin Feng was incredibly aggressive and unrestrained. At the moment when Yu Qiu and two other cultivators at the Xian qi layer arrived and walked towards him, Lin Feng still looked completely unaffected, and on top of that, his sword was still moving in for the kill. How audacious! I, Yu Qiu, haven't seen anyone dare to attack one of the grandchildren of the Yu clan, especially in front of me, said Yu Qiu, sounding extremely evil while staring at Lin Feng's back, like a venomous snake. But Lin Feng, as before, seemed indifferent. Yu Qiu facing his back, but Lin Feng didn't turn around at all. Now, you have seen, said Lin Feng coldly and detached. Yes, I have. You are extremely courageous and gifted, you surprised all of us, but today, your life will end here, said Yu Qiu in an ice-cold tone. He released a piercing deadly energy which moved towards Lin Feng. Yu Tianxing's life is still in my hands. You dare say that will take my life, Yu Qiu, are you not afraid that I will kill him? Replied Lin Feng. He just had to slightly move his sword made from pure qi more and Yu Tianxing would be killed in an instant. If Yu Qiu attacked, Lin Feng would still have time to kill Yu Tianxing, but even in such circumstances, Yu Qiu still dared to act arrogantly and threaten Lin Feng. I'm not afraid. If you kill him, your family and friends will all die with you. They will be uprooted until there isn't even a single descendant left. Threatened Yu Qiu again, sounding extremely cold, which made Lin Feng stupefied. If he killed Yu Tianxing, Yu Qiu would kill his friends and family, not even a single one would remain. What you mean is that if I don't kill Yu Tianxing, you will only kill me, but if I kill Yu Tianxing, even my friends and family will die. Lin Feng's heart was filled with endless coldness, but his voice sounded as calm and serene. Yu Tianxing was the only one who could see how calm and carefree Lin Feng's eyes looked. Yu Tianxing's heart was pounding. Lin Feng was way too dangerous. He could end his life at any moment. Indeed, nodded Yu Qiu. Therefore, today, no matter what happens, I will die, said Lin Feng. You are not as stupid as you seem, joked Yu Qiu. On that day, no matter what, he wouldn't let Lin Feng live, he would never be allowed to leave there alive. In other words, today, no matter what, whether I kill Yu Tianxing or not, I am doomed either way, right? Yu Qiu was smiling because of the joke he had just made, but when he heard Lin Feng's response, his facial expression drastically changed. Yu Tianxing looked terrified. Could it be that you want your friends and family to die with you? Threatened Yu Qiu, sounding ice-cold. Family? Lin Feng smiled, he had already left his clan and didn't care about them at all. Then, he didn't know where his father, Lin Hai, was. There was only one person for whom Lin Feng was scared, Meng Qing. Concerning his friends, Lin Feng suddenly talked, Second Prince, all my friends are students of the Celestial Academy. If anyone dares to attack your friends at the Celestial Academy, I will have no other choice but to personally kill them. Replied Duan Wuya to Lin Feng's statement, as if he had immediately guessed what Lin Feng meant. When Yu Qiu and the others heard Duan Wuya, they were dumbstruck. Duan Wuya was surprisingly helping Lin Feng and would dare to threaten the Yu clan. Thank you, Your Highness, smiled Lin Feng. Just as Lan Jiao had guessed, Lin Feng had understood why Duan Wuya had created such a situation. Duan Wuya wanted to kill Yu Tianxing. Even though Lin Feng didn't know why Duan Wuya was like this, he could understand Duan Wuya's plot. Since Duan Wuya had organized everything, Lin Feng had the guarantee that Duan Wuya would definitely protect his friends. Even if he killed Yu Tianxing, it wouldn't be that easy to kill Lin Feng. Everybody heard it, if I kill Yu Tianxing, I will die, if I don't kill Yu Tianxing, I will die as well. Since I will die either way, I, of course, have to kill Yu Tianxing. Besides, I will not be the only murderer, Yu Qiu should be considered as my accomplice, said Lin Feng, sounding particularly evil. His words made the people's hearts vibrate. Lin Feng wanted to kill Yu Tianxing, uncle. Shouted Yu Tianxing. Yu Qiu had put him in a dangerous situation. He knew now that threatening Lin Feng never worked. Would you dare? Deadly energies emerged from Yu Qiu's body and pierced towards Lin Feng. Why not? Lin Feng smiled in an extremely evil way. Yu Tianxing, whether I kill you or not, your third uncle will kill me, therefore, it's clear that your third uncle wants you to die, he doesn't care whether, Lin Feng, kill you or not, right? When he finished talking, his sword made of pure qi slowly started move. Don't. When Yu Tianxing saw that, he begged Lin Feng in a weak voice. He didn't even have the strength to shout. However, while that weak voice spread through the atmosphere, the light of Lin Feng's sword slowly vanished, just like Yu Tianxing's life. Lin Feng had killed him. Lin Feng had finally killed Yu Tianxing, without showing any mercy. The crowd was astonished. They were calmly looking at the corpse as it slowly fell. Yu Tianxing had died. A young master of the Yu clan had been killed by Lin Feng in front of everybody. Yu Tianxing was supposed to have a brilliant future before him with infinite possibilities, but before he could emerge into greatness, he create enmity with Lin Feng. He had been extremely unlucky. The most unfortunate was that he wanted to kill Lin Feng, but had failed a few times. In the end, he had lost his life because of it. Yu Qiu also watched the scene unfold. His heart was violently pounding. Lin Feng had killed Yu Tianxing. He had thought that Lin Feng wouldn't dare, but in fact, Lin Feng had just proved that he was much more audacious than expected, or maybe more precisely, Yu Qiu wasn't as imposing and domineering as he thought himself to be. How foolish had he been to say that Lin Feng would die no matter what. He had been foolish to say such arrogant and presumptuous words. No matter what, Lin Feng was going to die. Why didn't he try and prevent him from killing Yu Tianxing? Yu Qiu had let Yu Tianxing die. Lin Feng had brought Yu Tianxing to a cliff edge and Yu Qiu gave the final push. Yu Qiu's heart was pounding violently. Inevitably, what happened on this day would quickly be known to everyone, to the extent that people would also know that Yu Qiu's foolish words had led to Yu Tianxing's death. Yu Tianxing was the patriarch's son, his brother's son. An incredible deadly energy spread through the atmosphere and moved towards Lin Feng. Yu Qiu had to tear Lin Feng's body into 1,000 pieces. If he didn't, how would he explain all this to his big brother? At the same time, Lin Feng turned around and Yu Qiu finally saw Lin Feng's face. At that moment, Lin Feng's eyes were filled with an endless coldness. Yu Qiu had threatened to kill him, his family and friends. They were both staring at each other, with killing intent filling their eyes. They both wanted to rip each other apart. Everybody else, move away, said Yu Qiu, sounding colder than ever before. Even if all these cultivators were noble and wealthy, at that moment, Yu Qiu only wanted to kill Lin Feng. None of these young people refused. Their silhouettes started flickering and they all left the pavilion. They had nothing to do with that, so they didn't want to get injured from their battle. Yu Tianchen was still smiling. In a flash, he landed far away on the field. Lin Feng was going to die. Yu Tianxing had died, so Lin Feng would definitely die here. In a flash, only one person was left in the pavilion, Lin Feng. Cut off his hands and feet, don't kill him too quickly, said Yu Qiu while glaring at Lin Feng. His voice was ice cold. When he finished talking, the two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer by his side immediately started moving. They both ran across the bridge towards Lin Feng. When Lin Feng saw these two people coming towards him, an incredible quantity of pure qi started to burn and flash around his body. That pure qi looked like both light qi and fire qi at the same time. It was dazzling and incredible. Because Lin Feng had been practicing the Cosmos Burning Sun skill, after breaking through to the Xian Qi layer, Lin Feng's pure qi had turned into Sunfire pure qi. It contained fire qi which came directly from the blazing sun. The most terrifying part didn't only lie in the destructive power of the qi, but also in the fact that it could set people ablaze in an instant. When the two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer sensed Lin Feng's terrifying pure qi, the eyes of these two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer flashed. Lin Feng's skill was extraordinary. He was only at the first Xian Qi layer, but his pure qi was monstrous to the extent that it scared them. Die! Shouted the two people as they unleashed a perfectly synchronized attack. Extremely loud sounds emerged above the bridge. Cracking sounds uninterruptedly spread through the air. Besides, the pavilion in which Lin Feng was slowly being destroyed as if it could collapse on him at any moment. At the same time, the two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer had thrown themselves at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled, they wanted to force him into a critical situation. Lin Feng started walking and heavily stamped onto the ground. In a flash, the bridge was smashed into pieces which made the opponents lose their footing for a second, however, immediately after they continued towards Lin Feng. Nonetheless, Lin Feng used the counterforce created from when he stamped onto the ground and jumped into the air, after which heavy rumbling noises spread through the atmosphere while the pavilion started to break apart. Lin Feng had the seal of the sun on his body. Then, an incredibly scorching hot sword energy started to fill the atmosphere. The people raised their heads and looked at Lin Feng in the air. The light around his body was so dazzling that they were unable to see him clearly. The people raised their heads and looked at Lin Feng in the air. The light around his body was so dazzling that they were unable to see him clearly. How terrifying! Thought the people in the crowd while their hearts were pounding. Lin Feng's sword was as bright as the sun, it was dazzling and felt like it could ignite the atmosphere. Besides, the two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer who were moving towards Lin Feng raised their heads and saw that Lin Feng was already high above them. Their hearts started to shake, that light made them unable to keep their eyes open, it was too bright. Scorching sword, said Lin Feng. Immediately after, Lin Feng's sword contained the scorching brightness of the sun, which amazed the crowd. It was scorching hot, dazzling and violent. Nobody could look at that sword. In the past, Lin Feng had been observing the sun and created 3 sword skills, the sword of the rising sun, which contained the power of the sunrise. Then, there was his scorching sword which had the brilliance of the scorching midday sun, and finally, there was his sword of the setting sun which had the pallid brilliance of a sunset. Besides, these days, Lin Feng had learnt the cosmos burning sun skill which helped him manifest the power of the sun to a much higher degree. At that moment, his sword was so dazzling because of his cosmos burning sun skill and his scorching sword skill, he had also released his sword energy, the result was an incredibly dazzling sword. Scorching sword, people's hearts were pounding. Immediately after, they closed their eyes, Lin Feng's sword was too dazzling, they were unable to look directly at the sword. In their minds, Lin Feng's words were resonating. Lin Feng was monstrously terrifying, they didn't dare look directly at him or his sword. The two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer, who were rushing towards Lin Feng, started shaking violently. They slightly narrowed their eyes but they still couldn't look directly at Lin Feng's sword. However, they could distinctly sense that Lin Feng's scorching sword was descending towards them. An incredible sense of danger spread through their hearts. They both stopped moving towards Lin Feng and an incredible pure qi was unleashed to block the sword. However, that pure qi was immediately destroyed when it collided with Lin Feng's scorching sword, only emitting small cracking noises as it destroyed the pure qi. In the air, Lin Feng's scorching sword's glow had enveloped the two cultivators of the Xian Qi layer and Lin Feng. The crowd was already unable to see the 3 silhouettes clearly anymore. There was only a radiant glow which looked incredibly beautiful. At that moment, a deathly silence filled the atmosphere. The brilliance of the sun which was surrounding Lin Feng's sword vanished and what was hidden by the glow became visible again to the crowd. However, there was only one person left, Lin Feng. The 2 other cultivators of the Xian Qi layer were nowhere to be seen. Apart from Lin Feng, there was nobody else in sight. Some flames were still burning in the air and the dazzling brilliance of the sun was emanating from the flames. They died. The crowd was astonished. After Lin Feng's scorching sword skill had vanished, all traces of the 2 cultivators of the Xian Qi layer had vanished with it. They had been surrounded by that blinding sword light and simply vanished without trace. The 2 cultivators of the Xian Qi layer had been killed by Lin Feng. Lin Feng's strength is really monstrous. The crowd was astonished. Lin Feng was terrifying. Those people were members of the Yu clan and had both broken through to the Xianqi layer. Even though they had underestimated Lin Feng, it was still incredible that they hadn't even been able to withstand his sword. Besides, if it had been somebody else at the same level as them, they wouldn't have been able to resist the power of the scorching sword either. They would have inevitably died as well. These few noble and wealthy young men were realizing that the carefree young man, who had come to the imperial city not long ago, had now become extremely strong. He had become so monstrously strong that if anybody provoked him, he didn't hesitate to kill them. Yu Tianxing, a direct descendant of the Yu clan, had died. Then, 2 cultivators of the Xianqi layer from the Yu clan had just been killed in an instant. The crowd weren't the only people who were astonished. Yu Qiu was feeling the same and he was blankly staring at Lin Feng. A moment before, these 2 cultivators were at the second Xianqi layer. They were directly under his control, even Yu Tianxing had no authority over them. Yu Qiu thought that by relying on these 2 people, he would easily be able to get rid of Lin Feng. He had thought that it would be a simple task, but in the end, the reality was not as simple as that. He had sent 2 cultivators of the Xianqi layer to kill Lin Feng and they died inside that scorching sword light. Yu Qiu hadn't even had a single opportunity to intervene and save them. That boy has to die. Yu Qiu narrowed his eyes, his deadly energy was getting stronger and stronger. Lin Feng already posed a threat to him and his clan. Lin Feng's natural abilities were monstrous and beyond human. In the past, at the Celestial Academy, Yu Qiu had assisted He Mo when he fought with Lin Feng, but at that time, it hadn't been easy for Lin Feng to defeat He Mo. Back then, Lin Feng had only just broken through to the 6th Ling Qi layer which, in Yu Qiu's eyes, was nothing. He used to consider Lin Feng as a tiny little insect, but at that moment, not much time had passed and Lin Feng was already able to kill the 2 strong cultivators who were always by his side. If he didn't kill Lin Feng, in a few years, he would become even more terrifying. Lin Feng stepped on his sword made from pure qi. He was standing in the air and looking down at Yu Qiu. He then said, sounding cold and detached, "Don't you want to cut off my hands and feet? Why are you not coming to attack me?" When Lin Feng finished talking, the crowd's hearts were violently twitching. Lin Feng was, as rumored, extremely fearless. He was standing in the air, fearlessly facing Yu Qiu. Battle energy was burning around his body and he was inviting Yu Qiu to come and fight. The crowd was just realizing that, from the beginning to the end, Lin Feng had never been afraid of Yu Qiu. Only, the Yu clan were so arrogant to believe that Lin Feng would be scared of them and wouldn't dare act against them, which is why they kept threatening Lin Feng. Yu Qiu, when he understood that Yu Tianxing's life was in Lin Feng's hands, had kept threatening Lin Feng, which had led to Yu Tianxing's death. Yu Qiu's facial muscles were completely rigid, he was dumbstruck. Lin Feng was surprisingly challenging him. Even though, amongst his group of friends, he was one of the weakest, he had still broken through to the 4th Xianqi layer. That meant that when walking through the imperial city, the people who could defeat him were very rare and those who could were very powerful and influential people. But at that moment, Lin Feng was surprisingly challenging him while looking down at him from the sky. Yu Qiu felt humiliated. It was an extreme humiliation. "You want to die?" said Yu Qiu, sounding ice cold. He raised his head and looked at Lin Feng and said, "Today, you killed one of the descendants from my clan. I already told you, your friends and family will all die. Even if the second prince can protect them for a while, he will not be there to protect them forever. As long as the Yu clan exists, it will become the worst nightmare for anyone who is close to you." Lin Feng was looking down at Yu Qiu and replied, "After the words you have just spoken, when I, Lin Feng, leave here today, to the Yu clan, I will become the greatest danger and I will not stop until it is thoroughly removed from this world. Do you think that you will have the opportunity to escape alive?" An incredible deadly qi emerged from Yu Qiu's body and transformed into a white light which flickered through the air. At that moment, Yu Qiu was standing on something which looked like a mountain. When Lin Feng sensed the deadly qi, he also released some deadly chi as well as some battle energy which started to burn around his body. Lin Feng was only focusing on the battle, he had to give it his full attention. He was also slightly scared, which was good as long as it didn't create a hindrance, otherwise, it would be pointless for fear to exist. Lin Feng wasn't like Yu Tianxing. Lin Feng didn't want to rely on other people to protect him. He only wanted to rely on himself, but in order to save other people, he had to have the power to save himself first. The crowd found Lin Feng extremely inspiring, he had an incredible determination, he would rather die than surrender, even if he wasn't as strong as his adversary, he would never give up. Yu Tianxing's arrogance and pride was superficial, Lin Feng had bravery engraved on his bones. It's useless. Yu Qiu smiled in an ice-cold way and stamped onto the ground. At that moment, he rose into the air at incredible speed. His pure qi transformed into a magnificent stream towards Lin Feng. Pierce! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. His sword pierced through the atmosphere. Yu Qiu was way too quick, and Lin Feng immediately released the energy condensed in his sword. Boom! The entire atmosphere vibrated and in powerful strength crashed against Lin Feng's body. It seemed like the entire power of his sword was under an incredible pressure. Lin Feng's body was blown backwards at an incredible speed. No matter if it was strength or speed, Lin Feng couldn't compete with a cultivator at the 4th Xian Qi layer. 3 Xian Qi layers of difference was huge. Whistling sounds filled the air and a huge purple lake appeared in the sky above Lin Feng, it then wrapped itself around Lin Feng's body and caught him as he was flying through the air. In an instant, a myriad of purple snakes emerged from his hand, at that moment, it seemed like an endless quantity of purple snakes were emerging from Lin Feng's hand and spreading through the atmosphere. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.